Hello, this is the first part of Foxfire by NeonZangetsu. Link will be in the description. All author's notes have been removed between chapters. Also, any explicit NSFW scene will be removed. This part will cover Chapter 1 to 8. Chapter 1. Never seen a dragon before? One not made of water anyway. Tot, have you been living under a rock? Let's just say I'm not from these parts and leave it at that. Tilda? Foxfire Blackwater Bay lived up to its name for once, on a surprisingly fresh summer morning of 129 AC. A slate-grey bank of clouds hung over King's Landing, lending the churning waters of the capital's principal port the look of tar as the sun struggled to punch through the gloom. The obscured solar disk lent out just enough light for a distinctly draconic shadow to trace silently across the stirring waves. For far above the waters at the mouth of the narrow sea flew a mighty beast, its scales quite xanthic while its triangular head, adorned with a plethora of dull spikes, leaned from side to side in a gesture that evoked a man rolling their shoulders in morning exercise after weeks of lethargy. But this was not a man. No. This great reptile was so much greater than the lesser races of Westeros, a descendant of long-doomed Valyria. It was the symbol all in the land knew to be the zenith of absolute, total, unshakable power. Her name was Syrax, and she was a dragon. Naturally, she was not without her rider. Rhaenyra Targaryen sighed atop Syrax's back, reveling in the torrent of fresh air blustering against her dragon rider's raiment, its scaled pauldrons a darker black compared to the coat's dull mauve. The princess of the Targaryen dynasty eased herself back into her saddle's warm, well-worn leather, and pulled lightly on the reins to get Syrax to bank gently to the right, giant leather wings beating gently amidst the tussle of wind. The whispering dance of air currents took the pair over King's Landing in no time at all. The distant forms of the Red Keep and the Dragon Pit rendered to nothing but toys upon a game board by her great height. Riding her dragon had always given Rhaenyra a feeling of freedom that cleared her mind. Up here in the clouds, riding banished all her worries for a fleeting moment, and goodness had there been some issues as of late. The crab feeder causing issues in the stepstones and her demon Targaryen's recent bouts of seemingly state-sanctioned brutality aside, the entirety of King's Landing was abuzz at the slowly approaching birth of what would become the princess's younger sibling. And the wait was slowly but surely killing the king and queen. Not in the literal sense, but rather the amount of stress that it was putting on their marriage. King Viserys had visibly aged perhaps a decade in these last 8 months since the Maesters, and Septors had confirmed beyond all reasonable doubt that the queen was with child. And by the 7 was it grating on the young princess. 8 months of being forced to watch her father flit hither and thither like a moth dancing between candles in anticipation of the birth and her mother. Always so radiant, slowly dimming to a shadow of a former self, afraid of once again facing the worst fear of any parent. And father has already planned a tourney for next month, Rhaenyra breathed out through gritted teeth. Syrax gave a rumbling hiss in response, inclining her head to look back at her in curiosity. Violet eyes warmed at the dragon's concerns. She patted the xanthic drake on its flank and flashed a smile. "Not you, girl, just talking to myself," she assured the multiple-ton dragon. Syrax huffed indignantly before turning its head back to the sky ahead, prompting the silver-haired rider to grin. "Well, if you're going to be grumpy, I suppose we won't be taking the plunge." That instantly got the dragon's attention. "Aha! Still a thrill-seeker, aren't you? I'd a feeling you'd be gagging for it after the storm." A few days ago, on an otherwise serene summer's day, King's Landing residents had looked up into the blue afternoon sky, only to see a torrent of roiling black clouds seemingly boiling from nowhere, and in scant hours, the capital was rocked by a cataclysmic freak storm. The clouds blocked out the sun, and for 3 days and 3 nights, the only light in the capital had been delivered by forking bolts of cerulean sky fire, as booms of thunder shook the meagre shacks of Flea Bottom to their splintered and rotting foundations. The winds had been so extreme that none of the dragon riders, bar a quite inebriated demon, had even considered attempting a flight amidst the lightning that would have made the most headstrong Baratheon sweat. And then, last night in the dead of night, while the small council schemed and solicited ideas, and the faithful had offered their prayers to the old gods and the new, the storm had simply broken, bleeding away silently into the night. Already, a borderline brigade of masters had sent ravens from Old Town to inform the king of a field expedition to King's Landing to document the aftermath of this miraculous event, begging for lodging, less than half of them wanting to be put up near the pleasure district. The faith chalked the event, quickly gaining the name the Furious Three as evidence of divinity, the incredible power of the heavens breaking into the mortal world to grace them and herald the arrival of the royal birth. Rhaenyra, on the other hand, had simply thought that it had been a bloody big storm that had prevented her and Syrax from flying, something she had rectified the moment dawn broke. Urging Syrax to fly straight, she gave her partner a series of subtle adjustments with her legs and the reins to slowly but surely come to a complete standstill in the air, held aloft by a tremendous banding thermal updraft that only a skilled dragon rider could perceive. Tension and excitement built in the female dragon as it hung there, its yellow scales clicking together noisily as its neck tensed. She could feel the thermal beginning to decay beneath them. Once it had degraded beyond a specific point, gravity would win out, and the duo would simply drop out of the sky. Yet Syrax remained as still as she could, waiting with rapt anticipation until her partner gave her the order they both wanted to attend. The sound of wind bled away until all either heard was the sound of one another's breathing, hearts beating as one. The sun broke through the cloud bank, bathing the duo in the light of the long summer, and Rhaenyra dug her heels into her mount's flanks with a grin. "Now, girl," she called, throwing herself flat against the saddle and holding on for dear life. Syrax raised her long neck back and answered with a pleased roar before letting her body slope forwards and began to plummet for the black water many thousands of feet below. The sound of wind filled the young woman's ears as she looked ahead, thankful that the crest atop her mount's head so perfectly created a shield against the worst of the wind, allowing her to look straight down at the glassy black water they were currently plummeting toward. They were an arrow loosed from the greatest bow, the drake's wings pulled in for more outstanding aerodynamics, were their fletchings and her sprawling silver hair a whoop of exhilarated will that spurred them on towards the earth. Your average dragon could maintain a maximum speed of about 125 miles per hour on the straight and flat, but Syrax was built for speed. Her svelte body and swan-like neck cutting through the air with a sharp whistle until they were falling at a hair's breadth under 300 miles per hour. Leaving it to the last possible second, Rhaenyra waited until she could make out the glimmer of their reflection on the water below before yanking back on the reins as hard as she could. Leathery wings sprang out like coiled vipers on either side of her, and the tremendous organic canvas took the strain, a beat of the tail providing just enough shift in inertia to let Syrax pull up in a graceful arc. Her rider gritted her teeth as she felt the edges of her vision start to grey and made an effort to push her thighs inward, the unique grooves built into the seat pinching her legs in such a way as to prevent her blood from flowing into her feet. Syrax pulled up from her dive, and Rhaenyra felt her body experience a brief pressure before it eased, and she could relax into the back of her saddle, her grimace lightening to a smile. The yellow dragon streaked across the coast not 10 meters above the surface of the water, kicking up a spray of water in her wake from the displaced air. "Not bad, Syrax, not bad at all," the Targaryen commended her mount, patting the dragon's neck, who growled appreciatively. The both of them had a need for speed, and while the maneuver was taxing on the body, it meant that for a few miles at least before their gathered speed ablated away to wind resistance, the duo were quite literally the fastest things on the planet. Soaring through the air so close to the water, Syrax banked lightly, allowing one of her wingtips to dip into the water, kicking up a sheet of water that refracted the light of the sun through its spray in prismatic fashion. The dragon seemed enjoyed the simple act, flying with such intense velocity that she would not have to worry about beating her wings for at least another 2 miles. While her dragon was having her moment of catharsis, after days spent underground to wait out the storm, Rhaenyra busied herself looking along the coastline and surveying all the detritus that had been kicked up or washed ashore by the violent weather. She spotted much muck and silt that had coated the rocks and a few unfortunate fishing boats and merchant ships that had been smashed against the rocks like toys in a bath. Looking closer, she could already see the stick-like figures of men making their way down the rocks to salvage what they could. Little did she know they were the Hands men who had been dispatched from King's Landing the moment the storm had broken to start assessing the damages and seeing what could be salvaged. Doubtless, some contraband loot would soon make its way into the Crown's coffers. Otto Hightower was nothing if not expedient, but for now she knew naught of such things. Her flight continued uninterrupted for the next 20 minutes until her eye caught a glint of something metallic along the shore. Rhaenyra blinked and, leaning forward, saw that it persisted. Curious, she banked her dragon in a slow, winding circle over the coastline to get a better look until she was able to make out just what it was, a body sprawled across the beach amongst a heap of seaweed. Syrax came in to land with a light thump before Rhaenyra dismounted and jogged towards the figure. The pungent stench of brine and seaweed permeated her sense of smell, leaving her unsure if what she had come across was a shipwrecked survivor or just carrion tossed up by the storm. Rhaenyra wasn't quite sure. In truth, she wouldn't have seen him at all if it weren't for his clothes, for they were so garishly bright that only being covered entirely by seaweed would have hidden him from her eyes. Bending over and wrinkling her nose at the smell, the young princess began the simple, if unpleasant, task of peeling back the layers of seaweed to reveal the figure that lay beneath. Many would think that a princess would be repulsed by the very notion of potentially unwrapping a corpse, but there was a level of excitement as she worked at this current mystery that had presented itself to her. Life in King's Landing had grown so terribly dull, as of late, and a distraction was most welcome. Strand by strand, she pulled away and tossed aside, revealing what surprised her to be a young man near of an age with her, perhaps just shy of or recently past his 17th name day. He was of average height, with hair so blonde he could have been a Lannister, but it was arranged in a ticket of spikes so thick she had never seen the like. His complexion was a peach tan that spoke of someone who spent much time outside, but not ruddy and worn like a sailor. If so, it begged the question of what he was doing washed up on the shore, like a common bilge rat. Thoughts of rodents brought her attention to the odd whisker marks adhered to his cheeks like tattoos. From the free cities? The sea snake once said that the people of Volantis marked their slaves' faces with tattoos. She mused curiously, pressing her fingers to his neck and felt a steady pulse. Well, he was alive, if nothing else. Luck, it seemed, was on his side. Leaning back, she took another look at him as a whole and felt her mouth crease in a thoughtful frown. He certainly wasn't dressed as a slave, clad in orange and black clothes he was, a strange amalgamation of torn rags. The vividness of that orange struck her as something too rich for any slave, save one who might work for the pleasure of their master or mistress. She quashed that ugly of thought as soon as it came, turning her attention to the object that had caught the light in the first place. He clutched a strange metal plate of some sort in one hand. She couldn't be sure what it was, only that it had seen better days. Dings and scratches pitted its burnished steel surface with traces of black fabric, having frayed to near nothingness at its ends. Any attempts to pry it free and get a good look at it were rendered moot when he jolted upright. 5 firm fingers locked around her wrist and yanked hard enough to bruise. Rhaenyra let out an exclamation of discomfort but found focused instead on the blonde, whose eyes flitted in all directions, pupils dilated and unsure before locking onto her. His eyes were a bright blue, a shade of blue that looked to be carved from liquid gemstone. The blonde opened his mouth to speak only for a terrible gurgling sound to emerge deep from within his chest. His eyes bugged in their sockets before doubling over and starting to hack desperately against the sand as Rhaenyra watched on in worry, foam begging to build at the blondie's mouth. For a moment she found herself paralysed by choice. This was such an alien situation to her that for a few seconds all she could do was watch as the blood vessels in those sea-blue eyes began to grow red. It was such a banal observation, the fact that she did not like to see the whites of his eyes so red, yet it was enough impetus to make her act. "Shh, shh," she encouraged. "You're really all right. Here." Her palm thumped into the centre of his back between his shoulder blades. The shock was just enough to make him void his lungs. "Ark!" The blonde turned and coughed up a frankly grotesque amount of seawater onto the sands. He panted for a few seconds more, foam at the edges of his lips as colour returned to his face before finally speaking in a hoarse voice. "Don't feel all right." His was a simple proclamation, but it served its purpose. It sparked a pang of sympathy in Rhaenyra that she usually reserved only for her close-knit group of family and personal confidants. She wasn't much used to dealing with strangers, but the sight of him stirred some small semblance of pity in her. She stroked the small of his back once more as he heaved into the sands. "Are you all right?" she finally asked after his shoulders had ceased heaving. Pursing his lips, a pair cracked from the sun and caked in a fine layer of crystalline salt, the blonde sat back on his haunches, running the back of his hand over his mouth. "Gonna be real, I feel like death." Despite the sincerity in his words at his self-assessment, the princess couldn't help but pick out the nascent dregs of wry amusement buried in his voice. She could either be direct and no nonsense in her response as her station expected, or she could show a modicum of mercy for a half-drowned man. "You're in luck that I'm not the stranger then, friend, for I doubt my visage could pass for a skull," she jested grimly, picking the latter. The blonde looked at her as though she had grown a second head before a decidedly wet chuckle ripped from his throat, triggering another fit. "Well," he coughed, "you're a stranger to me, but you're no Shinigami, I'll give you that." "I get the feeling it's a similar thing?" he asked rhetorically, pushing his sodden hair back on his head. Curiosity bloomed anew in her mind. Shinigami. There was a term she had never heard of, but if this blonde truly did not know of the Light of the Seven, then he must have come from very far indeed. She snorted in a way that her scepter would have cuffed her around the ear for. Then, from one stranger to another, "May I have your name?" "Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki." The now-named Naruto introduced with a lazy wave, a sharp juxtaposition from the drowned rat he had been shortly before. Quirking a silver eyebrow in interest at the name, Rhaenyra extended her hand, palm facing down in the traditional gesture of offering a hand to be kissed. A common gesture from royalty to a stranger. She mused idly about his name. It sounded similar to tales that the sea snake had once told her of distant Yi Ti. Perhaps that was where he hailed from. "I am Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen, daughter of King Viserys Targaryen. It is a pleasure to make your acquaintance." Naruto stared at the offered hand before raising his own and bumping his fist against Rhaenyra's, causing her violet eyes to widen in confusion before amused interest bled in. Perhaps this was the standard greeting in Yi Ti. "Nice to meet you, Princess. If it's not much trouble, could you do me a favor?" he began, tucking the metal plate away quickly in what remained of his jacket. "Where the hell am I?" "Hell, singular, another odd twist. About 40 miles northeast of King's Landing. Surely you've heard of King's Landing all the way off in Yi Ti," she posited, drawing an utterly stupefied look from Naruto. "Where the proverbial heck is Yi Ti? Or King's Landing, for that matter?" The blonde tilted with a bead of sweat racing down the back of his head, but soon enough a growl from behind Rhaenyra drew his attention and banished his current train of thoughts to the wind, as did something else. He looked past her. That frown became a curious smile as his eyes locked onto the large form of Syrax, even now watching the pair curiously as she enjoyed basking in the sun. Rhaenyra watched him in turn. How odd. He acted like he'd never seen a dragon before. Perhaps he'd hit his head harder than she thought. Naruto leapt to his feet with a speed no man should have possessed, let alone one Rhaenyra thought recently shipwrecked. "What is that?" he asked, eyes gleaming with an excitement that his still, hoarse voice couldn't convey. "I beg your pardon." Rhaenyra felt her right temple begin to twitch. He must have been having her on at this point. He had to be. "Have you been living under a rock before that storm tossed you onto the beach? There's no one from the north to Ulthos that doesn't know a dragon by sight," she said, annoyance mixing with pride. Syrax trilled questioningly at the young man who looked between the rider and dragon. Shooting the princess an askance look, Naruto asked, "That's a dragon?" He stroked his chin in thought, eyes crinkling and cheeks dimpling, till his face looked like a puzzled fox. It was a surprisingly childish face, and the princess found she quite liked it. "Doesn't look like any dragon I've ever seen." "Oh, really? And here I was starting to think you'd bumped your—" "This thing has wings and no moustache," Naruto concluded, thumping his fist into his palm before smiling cheesily. "But to be honest, this thing looks cooler than anything a shinobi ever conjured up, and called a dragon. Mind if I go say hello?" He did not wait for her reply, instead jogging towards the xanthic dragon while Rhaenyra was left sputtering in the sand. His words had succeeded in utterly throwing her for a loop. "Hey there!" Naruto approached it with raised hand. Syrax didn't take kindly to that. She reared back from him, a stranger to her, with a startled noise. Snapping back to reality, Rhaenyra attempted to call out a warning to Naruto, dreading what was about to transpire. "Syrax, no!" "Huh?" Naruto cocked his head to one side in confusion at her exclamation, before looking back at the dragon. He found himself staring into an open-fanged maw with a quickly building orange glow emanating from its gullet. "Oh," he quipped glibly, an exasperated sigh on his lips. The young man found consumed in a haze of molten death, not a heartbeat later. A jet of concentrated orange fire sprayed over his entire body in the time it took Rhaenyra to open her mouth and give the counter-command to avert a very stupid way to die. And then, quite suddenly, things took a turn for the bizarre. From the heart of the fire, which should have been little more than kindling in the shape of a man, came the distinct sound of someone tutting in annoyance. A shape blurred from the flame, sending out a gust of wind that blew through Syrex's dragonfire, all but snuffing it out. Rhaenyra stood, transfixed at the figure that now stood at the centre of a heath of blackened, glassy sand. Naruto stood unbothered by the heat, a hand extended in a chopping motion. He was still aflame, but it was not Syrex's vermilion tongues with which he burned. His very body burned like a golden flame. Oi, slitted red eyes glowered at her friend. That wasn't very nice. Syrax hissed, reared back for another blast. Naruto snarled, and something snarled with him. The golden flame surged around him, emerging from him in a plume of flickering light that bloomed around his body, quickly twisting and shifting until it was the unmistakable shape of a fox's head. The beastly spectre let out a roar that thundered out over the bay, far louder than Syrax's challenging growls, so intense that even in distant Tarth, fishermen looked up from their work to gaze across the sea. Syrax coiled in on herself and made to rise to the challenge before the magnitude of the situation hit home for her. For the first time since her precious partner had hatched, Syrax hesitated. Then, in a show of deference that the princess had never seen shown to a non-Targaryen, Syrax bowed her head. The demonic fox skull persisted for a few more seconds before being sucked back into Naruto's still incandescent body. Having said his piece, he approaching the dragon and gently ran a hand over Syrax's nose. Rhaenyra stood aghast. Was this magic? She had thought the likes had died with old Valyria, yet here stood a being wreathed in fire, petting a dragon as if it were a common house cat. She flinched when Naruto looked over his shoulder, slitted red eyes, a far cry from the blue depths she had seen when he'd woken. "Don't be afraid," he smiled at her. "I'm not trying to start any trouble." Afraid? Her? Nonsense. The blood of the dragon flowed through her veins. But that begged the question. What flowed through his? In this form, he was fire incarnate. He could not be burned. She'd seen it with her own eye, and something quickened in her chest, a strange feeling she'd never felt before. Excitement tinged with trepidation. A word came to mind. One last tale the old sea snake had told her of distant Yi. Foxfire, Chapter 2. They're calling him the Unburnt. Strange name for a foreigner. What brought it about? Fire cannot harm him. As to the rest, you'll see soon enough. Tilda, Unburnt today was a day of 5 firsts for Naruto. First, he'd met a very strange girl and her dragon. Second, he'd been granted the exceedingly rare privilege to ride said dragon. Third, he immediately realized he loved dragon riding, and she'd ruined horses for him. There was something to be said about flying on dragonback, cramped though it was. Although sturdy enough, Rhaenyra's saddle only held enough room for one, and embarrassing as it was to grab onto a girl he barely knew, he didn't have much choice in the matter without falling off. Still, it was worth the sacrifice. The wind in his hair, the clouds rushing by, clinging onto Rhaenyra for dear life, her laughter rising in his ears as Syrax winged away. There was nothing quite like it. He could fly under his own power these days, to be sure, but that wasn't something he was keen on revealing just yet. Besides, his new friend, was she a friend, seemed quite keen on showing off to him. That was all well and good, but unfortunately her eagerness to impress him led into the 4th and 5th revelations of the day. 4th, you see, because evidently this world had other dragons. A great many dragons, and a dragon pit to house them. 5th came the realization that he really was far from home, with seemingly no way back. So yes, a day of 5 firsts, 5 surprises as it were. Surely he'd seen the last of them. How little he knew. Her 0.0, 0.0. The Red Keep always awed Rhaenyra. No matter how many times she laid eye upon its terrible towers, the princess always felt something stir in her chest when she stood in their shadows. The keep wasn't simply grand, proud, or even imposing. To her it went well beyond that. It was a message, a statement, testament to all the Targaryens had been and all they ever would be. Aegon the Conqueror's work endured to this day, gleaming red masonry shining in the sunlight for all to see, a constant reminder that the House of the Dragon stood as tall and proud today as it had upon its first day. Naruto whistled beside her as he stepped out the carriage. People live in that. His awe pleased Rhaenyra to no end. Impressed, was he? Good. He should be. Of course they do. Come. She took him by the wrist and tugged him along by the hand. I'd like you to meet. Who? He made no effort to resist, eyes still fixed on the looming edifice above, either ignorant or uncaring of the Kingsguard that fell into step behind them. Likely the latter. After all, if he did not balk in the face of dragonfire, then why would he fear mortal blades? You'll see. Rhaenyra grinned back at him as led him up the steps to the keep, frowned now as the faint scent of the sea caught her nose. She sniffed a little. Perhaps we can find someone to give you a bath after that. Naruto grunted his agreement. Wouldn't say no to a meal, either. Then you shall have it, she preened. But first to business. I'm taking you to see my father. The whiskered warrior made an amused noise for reasons she couldn't quite understand, but made no effort to pull away. Up, winding staircases Rhaenyra led her guest, past the servants' quarters, away from prying eyes, curious nobles, and higher into the keep. She passed Mother's room and briefly considering checking in on her, but no. She had been sleeping so peacefully just this morning. She needed her rest. Later, perhaps. Alicent was likely with her father, and she knew precisely where to find Otto Hightower at this time of day. Oh, but she'd not warned Naruto of what he was about to face. Perhaps she should do that. Be warned, when we enter the small council chamber, you should be prepared for resistance. She made brisk introductions, naming those he was likely to meet and the disagreement he was like to encounter. Sure enough, Rhaenyra heard raised voices as they reached the Tower of the Hand, or, more aptly, the door leading within. Raised voices within, some most familiar. Overreach yourself, demon. Had you lost your mind? Demon? Had her uncle returned? Naruto made to enter. Rhaenyra shushed him and dragged him back, pressing one ear to the door. On the contrary, I've found it. Sure enough, her uncle's voice came through, muffled yet distinct nonetheless. I see you for what you are, a vulture who perches atop my brother's throne. Speak not to me of my wife when you refuse to take another. She heard a chair slam back. Enough, father's voice rang out. I will hear no more of this. Lord Corlys, you wish to speak of the stepstones. There they were distracted. That was her cue. She pushed the door open and entered apace. Mercifully, most of the small council wasn't in attendance today. She caught sight of Otto Hightower first, and didn't her lip just curl at the sight of him? But there behind him, standing dutifully at attention, her nearest and dearest friend. Tired, perhaps, but she seemed much recovered from her cold. Alicent quirked a demure brow her way, made quietly curious at Naruto's presence, but made no move to speak. Yet. Nevertheless, she could see the questions smouldering away behind her eyes, and made a quick gesture as she passed her by, promising to explain later. Well, Lord Corlys rumbled. What has the princess brought us today? An enigma, he huffed, skirting the Lord of Driftmark. Her attention was already well past him. And there, seated beside father like a watchful hawk, Demon smirked back at her. He too took note of Naruto, tilting his head slightly now to regard him. The blonde met his stare evenly and tugged his arm free to frown at him, freeing her to reach farther. Rhaenyra, you're late. The king chided her gently as she circled the table. The king's cupbearer must not be late. A rueful smile tugged at his bearded face as she darted in to kiss his cheek. Leaves people wanting for cups. Only then did Viserys look up from the table. Only then did he notice Naruto, still locked in a staring match with Demon. And who is this you've brought into our home? Here it was, the moment of truth. Naruto tore his gaze away from Demon and fidgeted behind her, realizing he'd been put on the spot. That's a bit of a long story. I'm guessing you're her old man. Viserys coughed in surprise. Ha! Demon guffawed openly. You're a blunt one. Perhaps that's why my dear niece favours you so. Favour? Perhaps she did. Rhaenyra tried not to smile. She truly did. She failed spectacularly. Why have you brought this boy here? Leave it to Otto Hightower to ruin it. Naruto rounded on him. Name's not boy. It's Naruto. Naruto, then. The hand of the king acquiesced, but still he didn't relent. Why are you here? Rhaenyra told them in no uncertain terms. Of finding him washed ashore, of rousing him, and the miracle that had followed. Of watching him walk out of the fire and touch Syrax without being rent limb from limb. Of her dearest partner allowing him to ride with her. It was a story she expected few to believe, yet felt compelled to tell nonetheless. For once, none interrupted her, and she took full advantage, hammering every bit of her story home before someone could think to pipe up. Fascinating. Viserys found his voice first come the end of her tale, if it is true, Otto put in. Lord Corlys rumbled his agreement. It does beg a belief. Rhaenyra felt her hands ball into fists at her sides. I'm not lying. Then you are mistaken. The hand of the king scoffed. The boy cannot stand up to a dragon. What the princess saw was likely a trick of the light. Oh? Said boy, quirked a brow and spread his arms wide. For having the name Hightower, you have an awfully low opinion of me. Would you care for another demonstration? Alicent bit her lip to hide a silent smile. Viserys frowned in return. That will not be necessary. Why not, brother? Demon rose from his chair, curiosity piqued. It would be entertaining if nothing else. And if he's lying, we'll know soon enough. What? No, that wasn't her intent. Rhaenyra rounded on him, panicking, bleating in her brain, hammering in her heart. Uncle, that is, just fine. Naruto's smile had never wavered, not once, but now it had an edge to match Demon's challenge. I'm a bit curious about dragons myself. I wonder what yours looks like. Demon stepped forward to meet his gaze. You would not be so eager to meet Caraxes if you knew him. Naruto tilted his head a fraction of an inch. I've seen worse, much worse. It was like watching two alpha predators square up to one another. Rhaenyra couldn't look away. She found herself spellbound by the sight. Neither would yield. Their pride wouldn't allow it. Somehow she knew what followed this instant, that this moment would define them in the years to come. They would either be the fastest of friends or the fiercest of foes. There could be no middle ground. The world held its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Viserys blew out sigh and faltered. So be it. 0.0, 0.0. The dragon pit seemed darker somehow. Rhaenyra couldn't rightly say why. She'd landed here on Syrax only a short while ago, and everything had seemed so much brighter than it was now. Perhaps it was the weather. The clouds had swept in to obscure the sun, casting gloomy shadows about the pit, lending the world an almost ominous, eerie air. Even the dragon keepers, famed for their courage, seemed ill at ease. They had assembled here quietly, the 9 of them. Otto and Alicent, Lord Corlys, of course, herself and her father alongside Demon, and 2 of the Kingsguard. And of course, one mustn't forget Naruto. He almost seemed to vibrate before her eyes, trembling with excitement as he bounded from one foot to the other. She couldn't blame him. Dragons were fascinating creatures, and he was so terribly curious about the lot of them. Could he sense the lives lingering within, the great worms hiding deep inside the pit? Syrax was slumbering somewhere within. She could sense her partner through their shared bond. But they weren't here for her. Father sighed and gestured to Demon. On with it, then. Let's have the truth. Her uncle strode to the entrance, sauntered, really raised both hands, and cupped them before his mouth. A deep breath followed, and then, Caraxes Tilda! The shout echoed into the dragponit, and a low, shuddering, sibilant shriek answered almost immediately. A massive shadow emerged from the pit, its slender body arching like a snake as it dragged itself up and out of the pit. Rhaenyra found herself stepping back despite herself. She did not fear Demon's dragon per se, she was simply wary of it. And rightly so. There were foul rumours of the bloodworm. He had seen many a battle and slain many a would-be dragon rider before her uncle claimed him. Caraxes unfurled slowly, long neck arching toward Naruto. Hello there. By contrast, the blonde stood his ground, the oaf even dared to wave. You're a bit grouchy today, huh? Sorry they woke you up. This won't take long. The bloodworm hissed at him and he huffed, planting a fist on his hip. Hey, don't take your anger out on me. I didn't ask for this. Demon balked. You can understand him? More or less. Naruto waved a hand. I can sense emotions, feelings, you know? He's sleepy and not too happy about being woke up. When everyone continued to balk at him, he only smiled. Well, what are we waiting for? Roast me alive already. I want to get this over with and get something to eat. Father sighed. He certainly doesn't lack for spirit. Demon flicked glance her away as though to ask for permission. and when she didn't object. Dracarys. Caraxes reared back. Naruto planted his feet and grinned as the dragon's jaws parted. He was still grinning when a roiling red inferno washed over his boy. Bathed in fire from head to toe, he didn't make a sound. Rhaenyra felt her heart twitch. Had she sent him to his death? Syrax was one thing, but Caraxes was far older, his fire hotter and far fouler of temper. He proved that much now. Far from content with a singular blast, the Crimson Dragon unleashed a second, and then a third, followed by a fourth, all but charring the ground to black glass. Contrary to what some might believe, dragons could not continuously breathe fire. They had to pause, inhale, exhale, breathe, as all living creatures did. In that moment, between exhalations, Naruto emerged. He walked out of the blaze, bathed in that strange golden shroud once more. His eyes were red yet again, slitted like those of a dragon. She could see the strange black marks etched against the gold, strange runic-like inscriptions she could possibly hope to understand. Clad in that cloak of gold, the whiskered warrior walked right up to Caraxes. Well, she couldn't properly see his face from here, but it sounded like he was smiling. "Are you not entertained?" There he was, hamming it up, throwing Demon's words back in his face. Caraxes lumbered forward, intent to take a hearty bite out of him. No, those wild red eyes narrowed upon the dragon. "Sit." The dragon snapped at him instead. "I said, sit." A wave of unseen pressure ripped through the arena, blasting everyone's hair back. Rhaenyra felt it all the same, and it terrified her, more so Alicent, who ducked behind her. She didn't blame her precious friend. This was akin to having a knife at one's throat, of staring down a furious beast ready to swallow you whole. Death? This was death. She nearly fell to her knees and hugged her shoulders. It was only an ironclad sense of self-control that kept her rooted. Father and Lord Corlys staggered back. Otto Hightower looked as though he'd just seen a ghost. Demon shivered, one hand flying to the hilt of his sword, yet held firm. It must have been even worse for poor Caraxes, for Demon's dragon physically convulsed, shuddered once, and laid its long neck upon the ground. Had the beast whimpered just now? No, surely not. Good boy. Naruto ran a hand across Caraxes' crest. Shh. He cooed at it. It's all right. I know you didn't mean anything by it. You're just grumpy. Go on, you can sleep now. Sleep. In a matter of moments, the bloodworm did just that, dozing peacefully. Naruto turned a winning smile on them all. And he said it again. Are you not entertained? Rhaenyra certainly was. She broke the tableau first and walked his way, leaving a terrified Alicent no choice but to follow in her wake. Come. She took his hand and tugged him along. Let's get you a proper meal. You must be starving. Naruto laughed. Well, I won't say no to that. Don't suppose you've got any ramen? Alicent made a face. What, pray tell, is this ramen you speak of? Naruto made a strangled noise. You gotta be kidding me. Rhaenyra laughed. Was this selfish of her? Undoubtedly. It most certainly was. Did she care what others thought of them? Not a jot. It was the beginning of something new. Chapter 3. Naruto was it? I would speak with you. Alone. All right, your kingliness. Real nice chair, by the way. It is much more than a mere chair. Guards, leave us to speak in peace. Tilda, it begins. Shadows looming. The dragon hungered. It was an ancient hunger, gnawing at their old bones, a constant, relentless urge to destroy and feast and consume. But such meals were scarce. These days it had to content itself with scraps. How it hated scraps. The old worm remembered days when it never went without. Before the dark times, before the earth cracked and death spewed forth. Oh yes, it remembered the day of doom, the moment of fire and blood. When a city died, men burned in their homes and dragons fell from the sky. It recalled the anger, the pain, the outrage, spreading its great wings, shaking off the ashes to flying away. Far, far away until it found safety in this strange land across the sea. It had been hungry ever since. It had grown larger ever since. The dragon had found a dead whale 3 days ago, seized it from the sea with its claws and carried it to shore. That made for a fine feast. Such bounty from the sea was rare these days, but even they did not sate it for long. So long now. Long had it lived. Long had it lingered. Long had it languished, even as its kin grew old and withered away or fought and killed one another. But not it. The dragon was different. With old age came strength and strength, power. Though its body grew, so too did its resolve to live. It clung to life tenaciously out of spite, if nothing else. It would die in glorious battle or not at all. Such was the fate it craved. Such was the reason it had grown from a weak fledgling into the behemoth now feared far and wide. Yet, what was the point of power when it had nothing to test itself against? What use was fire and claw and wing when no true opponent presented itself? For a long while now, it cared only to sleep and hunt. Such was its fate, discontent though it was, until it heard the roar. Distant and strong, ancient and powerful, the old worm first heard the call across the sea, a cry that shook the very world. How its blood boiled that day. A single word had bleated through its ancient mind. Challenger! At last! After so long, such a mighty racket made it feel young again. It had not faced a proper foe since the dark times. Not since the passing of its kith and kin in the old city. It knew where the roar came from. Far across the horizon, to the south of its great lair. But when it raised mighty wings to cry out in return, no response was given. It had not heard it, had not felt the call. A second time, nor was there a third. And so it was made curious. What manner of beast could make such a noise? Another dragon? No, this did not sound like a dragon. Perhaps it would leave its lair soon. Seek out the sound and battle it. The thought pleased the old worm. It had gone by many names since its birth, but it cared not for them. Why should it? It was fire. It was blood. It was death. Nothing else mattered. Names were for humans. This was its domain, its island, its kingdom. Any who came would be torn asunder, as would the owner of the mysterious roar when they finally met. But first there would be battle. They would fight. The thought stoked the fire within. Yes, their battle would be legendary, but not this day. It was not yet time. And so the dragon waited for the day of release. Waited while gnawing on whalebones with its infernal hunger. So, very hungry. Eventually, hunger gave way to sleep as it did. The dragon enjoyed its dreams. They were a reprieve from its hunger. Tonight, when it slept, the dragon once more dreamed dreams of a man carved from golden fire. It longed for a day when it could devour him. 4.0, 0.0. Naruto rocked back on his heels, considering the monarch before him with wide, wary eyes. You want me to stay? He balked a little at the request. Here? In the Red Keep? I would, yes. Viserys granted him a nod. Is that a problem? King Viserys of House Targaryen, first of his name, King of the Andals and the Rhaenyra and the First Men, Lord the Seven Kingdoms and Protector of the Realm. It really was quite the title. And that was quite the throne Rhaenyra's father was sitting on, as was the blade he leaned upon. So many swords. Blades sprawling down the very steps themselves like some kind of ad-metal carpet. He couldn't hope to count them all. He tried and lost track, after 100. In a way, wasn't a king some kind of Hokage? Except you had 7 lands to look after instead of 1. That was an awful lot of responsibility. So many lives to look after. He couldn't fathom it. All these politics, all these laws and vows and oaths to keep. Just thinking of it left his head spinning. Made him feel downright boorish stand here wearing these rags. And yet the man sitting the throne only smiled kindly down upon him. Well, what say you? No, it's not a problem. A wry smile touched the corner of his mouth. Actually, I wanted to help you. Viserys reared back, a brief flicker of confusion flashing across his face. You? Wish to help me? In what way? There it was, the faint bite of disbelief in his voice. Naruto bit his lips to hide a smile, did so enjoy being underestimated. From what Rhaenyra told me. He took a step forward, climbing the stairs leading to the throne, footsteps echoing in the empty halls. You're the one holding the realm together, Viserys. I think that's admirable, no. It is admirable. He chuckled wistfully, recalling another leader he'd once known, the third, older perhaps, but one who had led until his death. You remind me of an old friend. He crested another step. I'd like to see you smile more before you work yourself to death. Nearly there, now. After all, the hardest thing any leader can be is a good man. Now he stood before Viserys, towering over him. The king didn't flinch. He looked up at him, fingers idly curling round the hilt of his sword. Blackfire, Rhaenyra had called it. The sword of the king. Its steel sang in the low light as Viserys chuckled. Wise words for one so young. Oi, he scoffed. Cut that out. I know you're only 39. Perhaps, Viserys allowed with a low laugh. but the weight of the crown often makes me feel twice that age. It certainly seemed such. Even with his back bowed, the weary king sat gingerly upon the throne, almost as though he were afraid of being cut by it. He could see a bead of blood on his thumb from where he'd nicked his hand before he'd arrived. "Ha! Are you certain you're not a Targaryen?" the king asked abruptly. "Some distant relation, perhaps?" He shook his head. "Pretty sure I'm not." "And yet the dragons bow before you." Viserys heaved a sigh. "The idea that anyone can control the dragons, used to be just that." He waved a hand through the air. "An illusion. In truth, we are more often at their whims than not. We can no more command them than we can will the run to rise or the moon to fall." "Why tell me this?" "Because you have done that which should not be possible." Those keen eyes fixed upon them. "You can control them. You have." "We've seen it." "I have seen it." A flash of indignation burned through him at those words. "I don't control them. I just talk to them, reason with them, and frighten them into submission when that fails," Viserys pointed out. "As you did with Caraxes, and as I'm told, Syrax, I have seen Caraxes devour any human who dare go near him, all save demon. Yet you had him resting his head in your hand. Many in my line have been dragon riders, some even dreamers, but one who can walk through fire itself. That," he raised a finger to point at him, "is rare indeed. I find myself wondering what else you might be capable of." It wasn't a threat, but a question. Curiosity. He wanted to know. "A few things." He shrugged one shoulder, not quite willing to tell him. "I'm a man of many talents, you know," Kurama scoffed. "That's putting it mildly, but wise of you. Best to conceal our gifts for now, rather than reveal them. Not keen on revealing your hand, eh?" Viserys patted the hilt of Blackfire, steadying himself upon its great edge, as one might a cane. "Only a fool reveals his hand when the game begins." "I can respect that." His gaze narrowed, and in this tired old man, he glimpsed a core of steel. "I trust you're not here to make war against us, then?" Naruto lifted his chin. "I am not." Viserys considered him for a long moment. "I believe you." "You do?" Naruto's brow shot disappeared into his hair. "Just like that?" Rhaenyra's father tilted his head to regard him. "Are you saying my faith is misplaced?" "Not at all." He dared a smile. "It's nice to be trusted. Almost everyone else has been glaring at me the moment I came here." An awkward peace fell between the two of them. Viserys broke it first. "Rhaenyra seems fond of you." He couldn't quite hide a smile at that. "She's nice." "Unfortunately," he finished with a grimace, "my small council looks upon you with concern. As does my hand." And now they came to the meat of the matter. His lips pursed in a thin line. "It's that Otto guy, isn't it? He had it out for me the moment he laid eye on me. His concern is ever for the safety and security of the realm." Viserys spoke slowly, choosing them with great care. "That makes him seem harsher than he truly is at times." "No kidding." Try as he might, Naruto just couldn't see himself getting on with the hand of the king. Alicent seemed nice enough, at least. One point in Hightower's favour. "A single bird amidst a nest of vipers does not a home make." "Not now, pal. Lost in your own thoughts again." Something like that. He was hardly about to reveal Kurama's true existence to anyone just yet. They'd call him crazy and try to toss him in a cell. Try because no one here could move him if he didn't wish to be moved. But he'd have to kill a great many people to escape from her. Two of whom he was rather fond of, Viserys hissed suddenly, snapping him back to reality. "Blast and damnation!" Naruto blinked and looked back to him. The king had accidentally cut his palm on the throne when he wasn't looking, further bloodying his already injured right hand. It looked to be a deep cut at that, bleeding down onto Blackfire's naked edge. The sight filled him with a strange, nameless dread. Damn his bleeding heart. On a whim, he stepped forward into the king's personal space. "Let me see your hand." Viserys waved him off and wiped at the wound with his sleeve. "It's just a flesh wound." Naruto stomped a bare foot. "Hand. Now." The king complied with a sigh. "I don't see what, oh?" Golden chakra flared and flowed into his palm, rendering his words a startled gasp. The wound closed with nary a sound, almost flawlessly. Only a thin white line remained. Viserys turned his hand over with quiet awe, as though he expected to find the injury hiding somewhere upon his flesh. When he failed to find it, he looked to him. "What manner of magic is this?" "Not magic," Naruto shook his head. "Chakra. Please don't tell anyone yet. If people realized he could do this, He'd be hounded day and night. Perhaps that was cruel of him, but he'd only just come to these shores. He wanted to rest a little first, you know. He hadn't even been here a week yet, and already tangled with 2 dragons and court politics. It was exhausting. Viserys grabbed at his hand. He let him. You are a healer, then? His brow furrowed in a frown. In a sense. Why? I would ask a favor of you. Do this for me, and I will be in your debt. 0.0. A queen had her duties. Lady Aemma Targaryen knew this, of course. She'd known it for years now, but knowing didn't make this battle any less unpleasant. As queen, she knew it was her duty to provide her lord husband with heirs, to keep the line of succession safe and secure. Therein lie the rub, as it to were. Emma loved her Dar Viserys, loved him with all her heart and soul, as she would never love another in this life, but this would be her last child. She simply could not endure any more, could not bear another stillborn, another babe dying in its crib. How she feared for the child she carried. Pregnancy was a battle to make even the sternest of souls balk. To risk life and death merely to bring another little life into the world. There could be no more arduous battle in this world. For if war was a man's battlefield, then the birthing bed belonged to a woman. Once more, Emma knew this. Hated it, to be sure, but she understood it. Rhaenyra did not. Would that she could! Life would be so much easier for her if she simply understood the way of things. She had been defiant once, too. Wild and free-spirited, so determined to live life to the fullest with her family. Before the Great Council. Before her dear husband, Viserys, was chosen to be king. Before the unspeakable burden of being queen broke her, and stillbirth after stillbirth. After 5 failures, she had come to accept that some things was simply not to be. If this birth failed, Rhaenyra would be her one and only living child forevermore. Just thinking of her made Aemma smile. Even if it was a tired, fretful thing. She loved that wild, willful girl more than life itself. Rhaenyra was the delight of the 7 kingdoms, the apple of her eye. But her dear child disdained any such suitor and spent every moment she could on Dragonback or with Alicent. Her position was clear. She would not marry, never go near a boy unless she was forced to. She would never marry. Which left Aemma rather flummoxed, yes, very flummoxed indeed, when her only child entered her chambers with a boy in tow. Aemma pushed herself upright in bed, squinting a little at him. He looked odd. Yes, that was the word. Messy blonde hair framed a whiskered face from which bright blue eyes shone, and although his clothes were little more than black on orange rags, they still conveyed some sense of sad dignity, as did the battered metal plate he wore round his head. What was that? A headband of some sort. Was the purpose of the plate, then? To protect from arrows, perhaps? If so, why carve that strange sigil there? Curiosities upon curiosities. Questions upon questions. She settled for the first. And who is this, then? This is Naruto, mother. Rhaenyra preened, actually preened, and stepped aside to make way for the newcomer. Father told him of you and expressed concern for your condition. She mimed emotion at her swollen belly. He claims to be a healer. Naruto? So this was him, then. The boy Viserys spoke of these past few days. Foxfire. He could not be killed by dragonfire. Younger than she'd imagined. Hey now, I said I can heal, the young man corrected, speaking for the first time within her earshot. He had a most pleasant voice. Not that I'm a healer. There's a difference, you know. Is there? Rhaenyra cocked her head, ever eager for debate. They're one and the same, aren't they? No, he held up a hand. We're not doing this again. We'll be here all night. How rare it was to hear her girl banter with some beside Alicent. Is he a maester, then? She propped herself up on her elbows, fanning herself with one hand. Where are his chains? He doesn't have any. Rhaenyra burst out. Isn't it strange? Oh, a healer not of the Citadel? Self-taught, perhaps, or an exile. The maesters wouldn't like that, not one bit. Still, far be it from her to stir the pot. If he was offering his services, she would happily take them. Surely a second opinion couldn't hurt. Not when she felt so wretchedly weak. He knelt before her, eyes fixed on her stomach and the little life within. I ain't too experienced with this sort of thing, but let me see. Oh, a pause followed. You're not well? A bitter laugh burst from her. Of course I'm not well, you silly boy. I'm pregnant. No, you don't understand. His blue eyes rose to meet hers, stern as the grave. I think someone has been poisoning you. What? Emma's stomach clenched as the baby kicked deep within her belly. No, it's not possible. Is it? Rhaenyra hissed out a breath. That's a damning accusation. How can you be so sure? What proof do you have? Nothing I can show you, only what I can sense. He shrugged beneath their gaze, uncowed by their ire. Pretty sure someone shouldn't have what your mother does in her. It's subtle, but whatever it is has been causing a slow decline. I know what healthy looks like, and this ain't it. Rhaenyra grabbed his shoulder. Will she be all right? She will be if I have anything to say about it. Rhaenyra scowled at him still and exasperated. He clicked his tongue at her. Have some faith, yeah? If I can save a man from the brink of death and regrow someone's eye, I can damn well help a pregnant mother. Your mother. He shook her hand off, turned back to Emma and offered an open palm. Hand, please. So forward. Emma frowned even as her heart fluttered. I beg your pardon, good sir. Rhaenyra turned a pleading look upon her. Just take his hand already, mother. Reluctantly she did as her dear daughter bade. Naruto wasted no time. He tapped his palm to hers and pulled it away just as fast. A faint tingle lingered in her fingers and she blinked down at it. A strange black moon mark gazed up at her from her palm, appearing as it hadn't before. She balked at it, turned it over, found it etched upon the back of her hand as well. What manner of black magic was this? What have you done? Just a tether to help me focus my chakra. Naruto hummed softly and laid his hands on her belly. All right, this shouldn't take too long. Gonna start with the little one first, then you. You might feel some She felt everything. Emma's back arched beneath him, a gasp of soft surprise fleeing from her lips, fingers gripping the bed as her entire jolted in place. Distantly she heard Rhaenyra gasp. She felt a series of sharp tingles in her body, like lightning racing just under her skin. From her head to toes, not an inch of her was spared. And yet there was no pain. She could feel whatever he was doing to her, but experienced only a strange numbness, smelled the faint scent of burning light, saw. Well, with neither word or warning she saw it, a fox, great nine-tailed crimson beast looming in her mind's eye. You're in a bad way, aren't you? Don't worry, we've got you. Sleep now. With those words, Emma fell into a deep slumber. She dreamed then. A fevered dream of ice and fire, of things she couldn't possibly explain, let alone hope to understand. Colours. So many colours. Red and black and green. A giant behemoth spread its wings to blot out the sun. Countless dragons wheeled through the sky and assailed a golden beast like gnats swarming a giant. They died in droves as he ripped them from the clouds. A silver lance struck a green shield and both shattered into splinters. Fleabottom burned in a plume of green fire. And there, sitting on the Iron Throne, all this madness, all this death. Rhaenyra? It was a mercy when the dreams finally faded and flung her into a deep sleep. Emma wasn't sure how much time passed after that. Seconds? Minutes? Hours? It could have been the former, but seemed the latter for all she knew. She slept through it all and thought no more of her dreams. With neither word nor warning, the darkness faded and she came back to herself. Mother? Mother! Emma blinked black spots from her eyes. Rhaenyra's face was the first she saw. She helped her up and Emma tensed, prepared for pain. None came. She felt better, healthier, stronger, livelier than she had been in months. Still exceptionally gravid and heavy with child, perhaps, but more aware. How do you feel? Rhaenyra fussed over her as she hadn't since she was very small, hands flitting over her belly. Better, my child, but where is... Down here. Naruto sat sprawled on the floor at her bedside, his brow slick with sweat. He turned a tired smile on her. Sorry, that took a little longer than I expected. Never dealt with poison before, never mind that much of it. Maybe be more careful about what you eat and drink from now on, yeah? Emma most certainly would. Maesters would test every meal. Or perhaps she could ask this young man to attend her. Rhaenyra seemed fond enough of him, and he certainly didn't balk at poisons. Another question quavered at her lips. And the baby? She should be fine. He hummed. I think I got it all out. Time will tell. The world fell out from under Emma as her every hope absolutely shattered. She? Aha! Rhaenyra preened even as Iema's heart sank further still. I knew it! Visenya will be a fine name for her. Emma scarcely heard her. A girl. Gods be good. Viserys had been so certain it was a good boy. So had she. If it wasn't, what was to be done? The succession would still be called into question, to be sure, but more than that. If her last child was to be a girl, she would be expected to have another, her decision be damned, and another, until a healthy boy finally came. Despair threatened to consume her. No more. Please, no more. She couldn't bear to go through this. Not again. You mustn't tell anyone. Some of her despair must have shown through, because Rhaenyra's companion dragged himself upright to face her. Don't make that face, Naruto soothed. You're a good mother. You'll be a good one again. That wasn't it. That wasn't it at all. Her brow furrowed as his words caught up to her a moment later. You speak as if your own no longer lives. She doesn't. Her and my dad, well. He looked away, idly scratching a whiskered cheek as Rhaenyra looked to him. They're not around. They died shortly after I was born. He missed the way Rhaenyra looked at him when he said that. Emma did not. There had been interest before, but now there was empathy, compassion. Would she be happy with him? She wondered. The House of the Dragon must marry for advantage, that much was certain, but maybe, perhaps. She shoved her worries down and reached out to touch his head. He balked a little at first, but didn't lean away, the poor boy. You have my sympathy. Thanks, he chortled a little at her remark. But it's an old wound. I've made peace with it. Emma patted his head. He was a loyal lad. Would you stay for supper? Naruto smiled softly. I'd like that. And perhaps a proper change of clothes, she amended, flicking a look up and down the length of him. We can hardly have you walking about in those rags anymore. A hint of fire flashed through his eyes and he clutched at his clothes. What's wrong with orange and black? Besides the fact that your outfit is in tatters. His jaw opened, closed, opened again as he finally found the words, idly tugging at the tattered collar of his tunic. I was kinda hoping someone could fix my clothes. Unlikely? Rhaenyra tutted. There's hardly anything left to fix. Your outfit is a loss. Naruto growled a little. Still don't see what's wrong with these colours. Strange as it might sound, Naruto's defiance pleased Emma more than words. Respect or no, he wasn't going to let anyone push him around. Not her, not Rhaenyra, no one. Good. Her daughter had no need of a yes-man or a lickspittle. Better to have a proper defender, a proper advisor, than some mewling coward who bowed to her every whim. But he'd asked her a question earlier, hadn't he? Nothing at all. She smiled at him as they walked. Black was one of the two colours of their house, after all, as was another. Would you consider wearing red instead? Rhaenyra perked up. That sounds grand, Mother. He'd look good in those colours. Naruto adopted a decidedly mulish expression, not knowing where to look between them. I'm not going to wear some fancy tunic. Perish the thought. Rhaenyra took him by the arm. I have just the thing. He blew out a sigh. I'm not going to like this, am I? Soft laughter filled the room. 0.0. Days gradually bled into weeks. Soon enough, those weeks soon became a month. Against all odds, Naruto found himself starting to settle into King's Landing. But all was not well. Or 0.0. Something must be done about the boy. The small council had once more been brought to order. All were present at the table today. Grand Maester Melos, Master of Coin, Lyman Beesbury, Master of Laws, Lionel Strong, Master of Ships, Corlys Velaryon. Even Demon was in attendance for once as a commander of the City Watch. Viserys almost wished he wasn't, if only because he knew discord would soon follow. Lord Corlys aside, it was too much to hope that Otto would forget about the boy. Likewise, he knew Demon would defend him if only to spite Hightower in return. And so discord would be had. We have humoured him these last few weeks, and still he shows no sign of leaving. His hand continued, turning a smouldering glare upon him in return. His presence is of no tangible use. If anything, he is a threat. Viserys bit his lip to silence the outburst that threatened to explode forth. The boy did have a use. Emma's health was much improved thanks to his tireless patronage. Rhaenyra smiled more these days than she ever had. But he'd begged for his silence. And so he held his tongue. Are you mad? Lord Corlys didn't much care for such things. His concerns lay with the stepstones at the moment. Nevertheless, he raised his voice in support of Naruto. You saw what we saw that day, Otto, and yet you would be rid of him? And why should he leave? Demon scoffed, lounging in his own chair. You heard, Lord Corlys. We should keep him close. Or are you so threatened by a mere boy? He has spirit, perhaps, but one man, one boy, Otto amended, cannot be allowed to take such liberties. The good of the realm. Piss on the realm. The prince leaned forward to sneer at him. He frightens you, doesn't he? You old senile cunt. Peace, peace. Lord Beesbury raised his hands. He's just a boy. He commands dark magics. Leave it to Meister Mellus to speak out against him. He should have expected as much. A boy immune to dragonfire with the ear of the princess. Otto turned to face Viserys, face carved from stone. A boy who visits your own lady wife nearly every night. He is a danger, if not to your person, then to your reputation. Surely you can see this, Our Grace. Was he? From what he'd seen, the boy was more a boon than a bane. He'd softened some of Demon's sharper edges. He was a gentle soul, one who wished to keep peace and help others. He'd said as much when he'd spoken to him. How then could he willingly rid himself of such a helpful soul? Who has he harmed? Demon thumped a fist against the table. No one. You have no corpses to pile at his feet. Not this time. Your actions with the City Watch have already been discussed. The prince shot back. Don't deflect, Otto. Your yellow belly is showing. Otto planted both hands on the table. As is your forked tongue, you reprobate. Oh-ho, Demon leered at him. We've turned to insults now, have we? Enough! Viserys raised his voice before they could come to blows. I will hear no more of this nonsense. He has done me good service, and Rhaenyra is fond of him. He rounded on Otto, turning a withering glare upon his hand. As is your own daughter, if you recall. Otto bridled at the reminder, so protective of her. Demon remained relentless. Why? The hand of the king looked away. That is not your concern, isn't it? He twisted the knife. Perhaps the Lady Hightower fancies him. He's certainly handsome enough. Otto shot to his feet. Demon matched him with a grin. Struck a nerve, have I? Enough! The both of you. Demon spun on his heel and walked away. As you wish, Your Grace. Viserys squinted his way. Where are you going? His brother scoffed at him without so much as looking back. I've places to be, brother, and I've heard enough of this tripe today. 0.0, 0.0. Demon's back hit the floor. Pain snarled up his spine, but triumph roared in his heart. Joy at the realization that he'd managed to last a full 3 seconds longer than last time. Progress was a bitter, brutal thing to win. But make no mistake, he was winning it all the same. And if his opponent was at all baffled by his determination, all the better. He kicked up and drove a knee into his opponent's chin, earning a grunt in turn. He kept fighting, lunging up to swing for his chin. Dark Sister sang in his hand and found itself parried neatly, shunted aside, and thud! Clenched knuckles barreled into the back of his head. His face hit the floor this time, with an aching skull besides. He laughed, rolled over, righted himself with a grin, and snatched up his sword. Again. Really? Naruto lowered his fist. Knuckles scraped raw from all the punches he'd delivered today. I just knocked you on your ass. I said again. Demon snatched up his sword and thrust it at him. Rhaenyra's companion didn't look half bad in Targaryen colours. Red and black suited him. His niece had chosen well, it seemed. You're some kind of persistent, you know that. He rolled his shoulders, black tunic left open at the chest beneath light armour, dark red trousers shifting just as he took up his stance. No fancy doublet for this one, no sir. Maybe don't leave so many openings next time, yeah? Demon frowned. What? You like to gloat when you get a good hit in, and that's fine. That's you. The blonde waved a hand, batting his blade aside. But save it for when you've actually won. Case in point, you left your back wide open there. I was able to flank you easily. Had he? It was something to consider at the very least. He was ever looking to improve as a warrior, and not all lessons came to one on the battlefield. Testing himself against a superior opponent was one way to improve, to be sure, yet it was also a way to take the measure of him. And thus far, you do whatever it takes to win. Naruto raised a water skin to his lips and drank deeply. I can respect that. Can't say the same of you. Now it was Naruto's turn to frown. He stowed his drink and glowered at him. Huh? You're soft. Demon tapped his boot with Dark Sister, turning that frown to a grimace. You hesitate. You have bested me much sooner if you went for the hard blows. Hard blows, he says. Her blue eyes rolled in mild annoyance. Those hard blows would have broken your ribs and bruised organs. Do you want to die that badly? Words, words, words. Not enough action. No, I want to improve. There's a difference. Naruto rolled his eyes. You're not going to give up on this, are you? No, he wasn't. A word of warning. Otto wants to be rid of you. He made a play to have you removed from the Red Keep today. Lucky for you, me dear brother wouldn't allow it. Seems you have him wrapped around your finger. It didn't stop him from trying anyway. A brief spark of anger flashed through those blue eyes. Demon found himself reminded of what he'd seen when the boy bested Caraxes. His temper might be slow to rouse, but once it was, there would be no hiding from his wrath. Perhaps if he could turn that fire towards Otto, they might well be rid of him, among others. Did he now? A curious expression settled over the blonde's whiskered visage. Why? Might as well be honest with the boy. Because he's a cunt. The boy barked a laugh at his casual vulgarity. He is? Demon pushed through despite his own smile tugging at his lips. The man's a second son who stands to inherit nothing he doesn't seize for himself. Your arrival has thrown his plans into disarray. Is it any wonder he wants to be rid of you? Naruto crossed his arms. And what plans are those? If I knew that, I'd have put the old oaf's head on a spike by now. You know, he clapped his shoulder, you would have made a fine Targaryen. Naruto took a stance. So everyone seems to say. Another round, then? Demon mirrored him. Though you'd never ask. They lunged at one another. 0.0, 0.0. Someone knocked at her door. Rhaenyra looked up from her books. Who goes? A Kingsguard's muffled voice came through the wooden frame. The Lord Hand, my lady. Confusion reared its ugly head in her heart. Otto Hightower? What in the seven hells was he doing here at this hour? Alicent had left hours ago. Baffled by the sudden intrusion, she closed her books, rose from her bed, and paced to the door. It swung open at her touch, and sure enough, there he was, Lord Hightower. She took a step backward to greet him. How are you this evening? Well, Princess. The Hang of the King inclined his head in return. May I enter? You may. He did as bade and closed the door behind him. She watched him like a hawk. He made no move toward her, not that she thought he would. She admittedly knew little of Alicent's father and was thusly ambivalent toward him. They'd seldom spoke with each other, and she didn't much like or dislike him one way or another. Which begged the question, to what do I owe the pleasure of tonight's visit? I know we haven't always seen eye to eye. Otto Hightower took a deep breath, clasped both hands behind his back and squared his shoulders. But I had hoped you might see reason where others would not. One hand came around holding a small sack cinched by a leather cord. Rhaenyra accepted it, baffled. A great many gold dragon coins gazed back her. She looked back to Otto, not quite comprehending his purpose here. What is this? Your companion. His presence here threatens to upset the delicate balance of the realm. His words were an iron dagger in her heart. A balance we have spent years trying to maintain. None must know of him. If the people learn that someone cannot be burned by dragonfire, the realm will fall into chaos. Do you understand? He gestured back to the sack of coins in her grasp. I would have you give him this. Thank him for his service and send him on his way. Her eyes strayed to the coin pouch in her palm. How heavy it was. 300 gold dragons, Otto noted. Worry not, there is enough coin there for him to live the rest of his life, most comfortably. Her fingers bit into the pouch. And my father ordered this? The silence was his answer. Of course it was. Had the hand of the king convinced father? No, surely not. He wouldn't, would he? She didn't know. That uncertainty tore her thoughts to pieces, but the coin in her hands remained. A small reward, a bit of thanks, and that was it. That was all. A miracle like him came by but once in a lifetime, and they would have him sent away because his presence was inconvenient. She knew her answer. Her heart hardened with it. I will not. Lord Hightower heaved a sigh. Rhaenyra, this is for the best. I will not! Rhaenyra flung the coin pouch at Otto's face, pelting him with golden dragons. The guard heard the commotion and barreled through the door. Rhaenyra saw her opening, took it. She shoved past them both and darted away in a rage, hating herself for their shouts at her back, for her anger, for the tears burning in her eyes. Damn it! Damn him! Damn it all! Could she not have bit of peace? Not one person to herself? She stalked through the halls, not caring where she went so long as it was far from him. She knew King's Landing like the back of her hand. It was a maze of her own making. All too easy to lose them in the side passages and wide hallways. It was only when she finally paused for breath that she saw a familiar shadow beside hers. I didn't hear you, she heard the smile in his voice. I can be quiet when I want to be. You certainly can. She sniffed and rubbed at her eyes. Some noble you are. Ninja, not a noble. Naruto clicked his tongue as he seamlessly fell into step with her. There's a difference, you know. She glanced askance at him. How so? Naruto opened his mouth to tell her and closed it thrice as quickly. Sorry, probably shouldn't tell you everything for your own good. Lord Hightower wants me to be rid of you. The words escaped her before she could think to hold them back. He gave me 300 gold dragons. Money? She saw him tense in her peripherals. Why would I want money? Don't want to leave. Her heart skipped a single traitorous beat. I do not wish you to leave either. Naruto nudged her side with an elbow. Then I won't. Simple, yeah? You misunderstand. She rounded on him in a swirl of silk. King's Landing is a nest of vipers. If you're going to stay here, we have to trust each other. He blinked back. I do trust you. Her face burned. Silly boy. How could he trust her when he barely knew her? You shouldn't fling around frivolous words like that. The blonde boy didn't budge. And yet I still do. Why? Well, he looked away, scratching at his cheek. I'm good at reading people these days. Call it a gift. You seem all right. Rhaenyra swallowed, took a deep breath to center herself before speaking. And what of Otto Hightower? His lips thinned into a line so firm they nearly went white. Not so much. Well, at least someone recognized the vulture for what he was. She'd not say such aloud for fear of offending Alicent, but the fact remained that the hand of the king was a grasping man. He'd shown his hand just now, overplayed the cards he held. She would not forget this. She would be wary of him going forward. He won't stop, she babbled. If he can't bribe you, then he'll seek to remove you. Let him try. His words struck her like a sledgehammer. She didn't want to see the back of him, either. She'd grown fond of his witticisms and frank way of speaking, the way he struck others speechless. And in that moment, an idea formed. A way to keep him close to her side, to bind his cause to hers. It might not work. It really shouldn't. Such power wasn't invested in her. But she couldn't think of any other way. Neil, would you kindly? A blonde brow quirked at her. Why? Her face burned darker still. Be quick about it. Naruto did as she asked, not to humor her as most men might, but because he trusted her. Trust. Such a little word, so humbling. She didn't know if she deserved such implicit loyalty. And why? All because she helped him once. Oh God, she was really doing this. If someone saw her right now, she would absolutely die from bloody embarrassment. Alicent would never let her live it down. How did one go about knighting someone anyway? She'd seen father do so any number of times, even mother once, on a lark, yet now the words escaped her as surely as fire through her fingertips. Blast it all. She'd have to look it up. Aha! She remembered now. I need a blade. A dagger appeared in Naruto's hand, drawn from his sleeve. Will a kunai do? It would have to. She laughed and touched his right shoulder. Kneel. He did so once more with a bemused smile. In the name of the warrior, I charge you to be brave. Now the blade moved to his left shoulder. In the name of the father, I charge you to be just. Back to the right now, and there she held it, letting the knife linger on his shoulder. In the name of the mother, I charge you to defend the innocent. Those were the right words, weren't they? Father could make it official later. Arise, Naruto. Her voice trembled a little as she offered him her hand once more. Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. This time he did kiss her hand. Oh gods! She hadn't expected that. Alicent would be scandalized. Should I not have done that? He looked at her. Demon said that's what knights do. Damn her uncle! She'd kick his shin the next time she saw him. Huh! Naruto stood, claiming her attention once more. Never been a knight before. You're not going to try and make me wear heavy armor or something, are ya? Rhaenyra imagined him trundling around in a suite of plate and giggled, just a little, despite her best efforts to resist. That depends. Will you? His smile was answer enough, but he still elaborated for her sake. Don't need it. Slows me down. Light armor's better. An agile fighter, then? Rhaenyra could respect that. She'd seen him spar before. He would be perfect. A knight who could move faster than an arrow, heal others, and even endure dragonfire. Rhaenyra could think of no better protector, not for father's Kingsguard, this one. She wanted him all to herself. No, not like that. Oh gods, she was doomed, wasn't she? Chapter 4. From my blood comes the prince that was promised, and his will be the song of ice and fire. The proper translation for that prophecy would be the prince or princess. Maybe so. I suppose we shall soon see. Tilda, it begins. Now it begins, Alicent was not unaccustomed to conflict. Such was the life of any lord or lady in Westeros, young and old alike. When one lived in the Red Keep, one learned this immutable truth. Life was conflict. To think otherwise was folly. What had father told her once? When one played the Game of Thrones, you lived or you died. There was no middle ground. Alicent counted herself lucky not to play such a dangerous game. She simply did as father told her to do. Life often worked out when she did. He knew best, and yet she found herself beginning to doubt as of late. For you see, father had asked her to watch Naruto, to observe this new boy, spy on him and observe his comings and goings, then report back to him. She suspected why. Because was at odds with the king. Not Naruto, father. She'd heard the two of them quarreling horribly just the other day about the very same boy. He is a danger. Enough, Otto. I will hear no more of this. Alicent shook her head to clear the memory kept walking, alone with her thoughts. Well, not as alone as she would have liked. She could see Naruto a few paces ahead of her, lingering in the hall. The moment she saw him, she darted behind a pillar. He was talking to a servant, a young boy with a shaven who hadn't yet seen his 7th year by the look of him. The blonde had a bit of bread in his hands. As she looked on, he passed it off to them, patted their head, and sent them on their way. It was a very kind gesture, so much so that Alicent felt a small smile grace her face. For a moment she pondered her purpose. She'd observed him for the better part of 3 days now, all for naught. Barring these random acts of kindness and the occasional visit to the dragon pit, he hadn't done anything worthy of reporting. What was she to tell father then? That he fed the servants? That he liked dragons? Everyone knew that, just as most of the small council knew said dragons wouldn't dare harm him. Stranger still, Rhaenyra had also been spending much time with Naruto as of late. Too much, some might whisper. She fancied him. Alicent found she rather did as well, albeit in a different way. She appreciated the blonde's frank speech and kind words. If the whiskered warrior had a problem with something or someone, he'd bloody well tell you. Consequences be damned. Perhaps he was a bit too forthright at times, but surely that was no fault of his. Perhaps he also knew what father had asked of her, and was thus concealing his other talents. If he was, he'd not shown them to anyone else. Or perhaps he was simply kind. You're awful at spying, you know that? Alicent squeaked and darted back behind the pillar. Blast it, she'd gotten too close. Lingered too long. He'd noticed her. Maybe if she stayed terribly still and held her breath, he wouldn't bother her further. Naruto tutted softly. I can see your dress. Her face burned. No, you can't. Alicent. He sounded like the brother she'd never truly had. Come out of there. Reluctantly, Alicent did as she was bade. Her gaze flicked over him as she emerged, noting the long, tight black trousers and red tunic he wore. He'd taken to wearing the colours of House Targaryen as of late. Father often spat at that. She wondered why. Her gaze drifted higher now, noting the bandolier of knives draped over Naruto's chest. So many knives. He was armed to the teeth. She didn't miss the paired daggers in his belt. Strange. Those hadn't been there yesterday. A gift from Demon, perhaps? Or Rhaenyra? There a reason you're following me? Her lips sealed themselves into a thin line. Nothing to say. He cocked his head and narrowed his eyes, reminding her of a fox. Fine. I'll do the talking. Why are you here? Alicent didn't respond to that inquiry. She dared not and so bit her lip instead. Naruto looked at her then, really looked at her right through to her very heart. She quailed at the heat in his eyes. His gaze made her feel small, like he saw more than he should. She was wary of Naruto. She didn't fear him, not yet, but she found herself cautious all the same. Anyone who commanded such strength and power was one to be skittish of. At length he cracked a smile and planted a fist on his hip. I'm not your enemy, you know. Wasn't he? Sometimes it felt like he was. Rhaenyra spent much time with him these days and less with her. She knew why, even if Rhaenyra didn't yet. Your old man sent you to spy on me. It wasn't a question. There was something in his voice just then. A touch of reproach, a hint of warning. She wasn't able to deny him. Her head bobbed in a nervous nod. Knew it. He palmed his face with a sigh and shook his head. That old geezer just won't let up. Is it because of the dragons? He squinted at her. It's about them, ain't it? Alicent fought down a flinch. She could understand his fascination for dragons, but she had no desire to ever ride one herself, despite Rhaenyra's coaxing. Dragons were wild. Dragons were fierce. Dragons were death. And yet Naruto did not fear them. Why should he? She'd seen him cow Caraxes and walk through fire. He was the unburnt. Dragon Whisperer, some called him behind her back. Bold heart of he might be, but not everyone was immune to fire as he was. Perhaps that was what Father feared, that he would walk down into the dragon pit one of these days and emerge with a mighty dragon of his own. It was something Rhaenyra had mentioned more than once. A passing joke, or so she'd said. Alicent didn't think it was a joke at all. For a wild moment she actually imagined Naruto sitting on the back of some dread dragon, Vhagar, or worse. "Are you afraid of me?" The sudden inquiry caught Alicent flat-footed. Panic bleated through her. She mustn't answer that question. Naruto chortled a litte. "You can talk, you know. I'm not going to bite. Are you afraid?" When she nodded, his face crumpled a little. "You shouldn't be. Easy for you to say." Here at last her tongue betrayed her. "You don't fear anything. Your body is born from fire." For some reason that amused Naruto. He barked a laugh. "It really isn't. I'm flesh and blood, just like you." She firmed her lips and lifted her chin. "I very much doubt that. Have a look." He held up his right arm. "See?" It blazed gold with black marking before her eyes, causing her to recoil for a moment before she mastered herself. "It's harmless." He waved said arm and the fire stopped just shy of his shoulder, shimmering softly. Don't be afraid." He offered her his golden arm. "Go on, touch it. You won't be hurt." Hesitantly she did so, first tugging at his sleeve, then his arm entirely. Slim fingers furled around his wrist. It was so very warm. Like she'd placed her hands in sunlight. She found herself lifting his arm, peering at it, trying to understand it. She failed utterly. "What are you?" "Just your friendly neighborhood shinobi. Make your own future, Alicent." He extinguished his arm, pivoted, planted both hands in his pockets, and walked away from her. "Live your life. Live it well. Do what you want, with who you want, or don't. It's your choice." He left her with those words and the fading sound of his footsteps. 0.0. The dragon lifted its head. It had his scent. It smelled him now. Soon it would have its long-awaited feast. Soon. 0.0. Rhaenyra found him not 3 hours later. Naruto sensed her before he saw her, and heard her footsteps well before that. He looked up from where he sat. Whetstone in one hand, knife in the other. He'd gotten away from Alicent, poor girl. And found some peace here in the courtyard. It was the perfect place to enjoy the afternoon, the sun spilling down on his face, granting him some precious peace and quiet. Or so he'd thought. "Did you need something?" "Not as such." She sat beside him with a wry smile. "Enjoying the new knives?" "I am." He grunted and went back to sharpening them. They were fine tools. Rhaenyra had surprised him with the gift, throwing his thoughts awry. But they weren't muddled now. If anything, they were sharp. Very much so, like the knives he was working on. Otto was watching him, was he? No surprise there. The man was paranoid. He'd never understand the good of the realm nonsense. Right now, he was more worried about that sly little smirk Rhaenyra wore. "I wanted to tell you of the tournament." "Right." He quirked a blonde brow at her. "When is that again?" "Tomorrow." Her head bobbed. "Uncle Demon is favoured to win it." "Of course he is." He rolled his eyes in mild amusement. "But why remind me?" Kurama chuckled darkly. "Isn't it obvious?" Sure enough, Rhaenyra stared at him until, with that pointed look of hers, until he understood. He reared back a little. "Or you want me to compete in the joust?" No. He wagged a finger at her. "Do I even need to tell you how much of a bad idea that is?" "Not in the joust, then." She tossed her head and tucked a strand of pale hair behind her right ear. "Perhaps in the grand melee." He knew what she was getting at now. "Bah!" He elbowed her. "You just want to show me off." She grinned. "A little, perhaps. More than a little." She was working her way up to something. Naruto put the thought from his might and went back to sharpening his knives. "You have great power and strength." Rhaenyra left him to it, but she didn't give up either. He could still hear her as he worked. "The lords of Westeros don't know you as I do." She laid a hand on his arm and he looked at her. "Let them see you. Let them know you as I do. It would go a long way to quelling doubt, if nothing else. So you want me to get myself involved in a fight Demon wants to win. A wry chuckle escaped him. He won't like that. Like what now? The man in question swaggered really into the open room, one hand in his belt and a smile upon his face. That keen gaze of his flitted down to the daggers and the whetstone. The moment it did, his smile gained a wry smile. He muttered something in Valyrian, not much, but enough for him to catch the gist of it. Rhaenyra's lessons paid dividends there. The fox sharpens his fangs, I see. Yes, he does. Naruto clicked his tongue and glared bloody red daggers at the rogue prince. And the dragon will stop bearing his unless he wishes to be bit. Demon blinked in surprise, somewhat taken aback. Then he threw his head back and barked a laugh. So you've been teaching him? Here and there, Rhaenyra preened. We've only been at it for a short while. You've told him about the tournament then? I have, she pouted. He's being stubborn. Uncle and niece looked to him. Naruto sighed. It was painfully obvious what they were getting at, rather what they wanted him to do. They thought it would be fun to have him fight. A game. Combat wasn't a game. He trained because he had, because he needed to keep his skills sharp in this strange, sordid world he'd fallen into. He took no pleasure in cracking skulls. All right, maybe a little, where idiots were concerned. Bullshit. You enjoy a good tussle as much as the next. Need I remind you of all those hard right hooks you've dealt out? Caught between two Targaryens and the fox within, Naruto sighed. I'm more worried Rhaenyra's mother, to be honest. Demon's face closed down. That mewling woman? Oh, hush. Rhaenyra slapped his arm and gave him a cross look. She's having a girl. Your position is perfectly safe. The prince pivoted to face her, a brief flicker of hope and fear flashing in his eyes. And you know this how? Naruto said so when he tended to Mother. The princess rolled one shoulder in a shrug. She also told us not to tell anyone. Naruto chided her. My mother, my secret Tilda! Apparently. Tension gradually bled from Demon's face as they squabbled, replaced by something else. You plan to fight then? Naruto blew out a breath. He supposed they were going to press the issue. Rhaenyra did have a point after all. Against my better judgment. You're a quick little thing. Her uncle clapped him on the shoulder. If things go south, you can run back to the royal chambers, tend to her, and make it in time for the lists. He didn't miss the way his hand tightened ever so slightly against his collarbone. I'd relish the chance to test myself against you in a proper fight. A blonde brow quirked his way. Even if I knock you on your ass again? Rhaenyra muffled a giggle behind her hand. He certainly has you there, uncle. Demon scoffed, undeterred. Even so. He looked between the two of them and winked. I'll leave the two of you to it then. Do try to behave. His piece said, he left as quickly as he'd come, whistling under his breath. Naruto noticed a slight spring in his step, one that hadn't been there before. It seemed the news had lifted his spirits a little. Maybe telling him had been the right decision after all. He hoped it was. Choices like the one they'd just made had a nasty way of coming back to bite you. Rhaenyra watched him go with a curious smile. He seems fond of you. I dare say you're a good influence on him. Naruto sighed. And he's a bad one on me. Speaking of fighting, he scrutinized her for a long moment. Well, if she was going to press him to fight, then he could do the same to her. Do you? A blink. Do I what? Know how to fight, he said. Me? She reared back, startled by the sudden inquiry. I don't know. Naruto inhaled a deep breath and took the plunge. Would you like to? Renner's face lit up, his vision tunneled, and for a beautiful, blinding, breathless moment nothing else existed. Her smiling visage was all he could see. In that instant, she ceased to be a princess, or even a Targaryen. She was just a lonely girl wanting someone, anyone, to pay attention to her. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded terribly small. I'd love to. He wanted to see that smile more often. Hope you know what you're getting into here. So did he. I'll warn you now, I'm not a very good teacher. She seized his hands with hers. Any lesson will do. Yep. No use. He'd caught her eye. There'd be no getting away from her now, he knew. Well, his gaze flicked up and down the length of her, considering his options. Small, slight, nearly of an age with him. No large blades or axes for her, not that he knew how to use either. Daggers, maybe. He knew how to use those, and she'd gifted him a pair. Ah, but he was getting ahead of himself. We'll start with hand-to-hand combat, he decided. Her eyes danced with delight, an impish grin showing through her teeth. I look forward to your instructions, sir. Why did I let you make me a knight again? He laughed ruefully. No, never mind. You going riding on Cyrax after this? That was my intent. Something tugged at his heart. Must be nice, having a dragon to call your own. You might want to hold off on that for today. Why? She tilted her head. It's just a bit of training. I doubt I'll be tired. You say that now, but you might end up cursing me by the end of this. He certainly had when Jiraiya started training him in earnest. If you really want to learn how to fight, it won't be an easy road. How so? Well, he scratched the back of his head. When I do something, I do it all the way. Also, you're going to be sore. 0.0. Naruto wasn't wrong. Come the next morning, Rhaenyra wanted to bite him. Because, you see, she woke to utter agony. Every fibre of her being ached as she dragged herself from her bed. She hurt in places she didn't even know she had. Her muscles locked up with every step, and it was only an ironclad sense of self-control that allowed her to put one foot in front of the other long enough to stand on her own 2 feet. Already she could feel the beginnings of a bruise beneath her ribs, where his fist had found her yesterday. Only a day of this and she wanted to cry. How did Demon train like this? Madness! Small wonder he was so strong with a regiment like that. Yet was it not worth it, to have a skill of her own? Rhaenyra paused before her mirror, considering herself. She looked terrible. She felt worse, but pride burned within her breast all the same. She was learning. Not just a means to defend herself, but a way in which she might carve out her own destiny. After all, if father didn't have any sons, then Demon would remain his heir, leaving her free to be whatever she wanted to be. She had no desire to be some humble lady. She longed to be a warrior, a fighter, like the Targaryens of old. The thought filled her heart with more than a little pride. A knock on her door shattered it. Rhaenyra tensed and drew her gown a little tighter, reminded of Otto's intrusion not a fortnight before. Who goes? The Lady Alicent Hightower, came the Kingsguard's voice. Shall I admit her? You may. The door creaked open, and there she was, her dearest friend. Ah, she was wearing the white dress today. It would match nicely with her red gown she'd chosen for the occasion. You've slept in. She took one look at her and sighed at her sorry state. The tourney's due to start in an hour. Come, let's get you dressed. Rhaenyra lifted her arms with a wince. And Naruto? Your mother's gone into labour. Alicent whisked past her, comb in hand, and began attacking the knots in her hair with ruthless dispatch. He's tending to her with the maesters. They kicked up quite the fuss. Rhaenyra hid a smile behind a jaw-popping yawn. Yes, she could imagine the doddering old men doing that. I'm sure they did. Alicent saw the bruise on her ribs and gasped. Are you all right? Did you fall last night? Into Naruto's fist, more like. She wore a rueful smile. He hit you. I asked him to. She pinched her wrist and shooed her hand away. It was just a bit of training, all in good fun. Alicent's face was a study of contrasts as she helped her into the gown. You trust him too easily. And you not enough, perhaps. She stuck out her tongue. He's harmless. Alicent quirked a dark brow her way. To us, at least, she amended. Help me walk, would you? My legs ache. She offered a silent prayer for her mother. Surely she was having an uncomplicated birth. 0.0. Emma always hated the pain. Really, the pain was the worst part of it all, the part that always broke her no matter what. She'd been through countless births, and every time she danced with death. Each time the stranger took his due, be it from her or another stillborn child brought into the world. Every bloody time. And with each failed birth, she lost a little more of herself. But it was worse this time. No, something was wrong. The child wouldn't come. Rather, it refused to. She felt herself faltering, her stamina fading. Someone had said the babe was in breach whatever, in the 7 hells that meant. One of the maesters had run to fetch Viserys. Everything was a dry, grey haze. Breathing hurt. She couldn't get enough air, and oh gods, her belly. Push now! And then a golden hand patted her knee ever so gently. Don't worry about the bleeding. I've got you. Emma looked up from her birthing bed with a startled yelp. How did you get in here? Naruto hummed, blue eyes crinkling in a smile. Through the window. How else? It's a 1,000-foot drop to the sea, he smiled. I'm a good climber. What in the 7 hells? A startled shout told her the maesters had finally taken notice of him. Begone, boy! This is no place for a wastrel like you. He scoffed at them. Didn't ask, don't care, go away. She cannot deliver the baby safely. In times such as these, we must— Who decided that? Naruto snarled over him. These gods of yours? Let me tell you something about gods. After today's fiasco, his temper must have, and truly gotten away from him because he absolutely growled. They don't know shit. I fought one. I won. Yours can try to strike me down if they have a problem with me being here. Guards, remove him at once. Emma didn't see what happened next, but she certainly heard it. A muffled thump and a strangled gasp paid for that. Naruto's voice rang over it all, clear as a bell. Any other objections? Emma slumped back in her bed with a tired smile. Clever boy, witty boy, loyal and dutiful. Perfect for her Rhaenyra. He could be fighting in the tournament, winning names and glory. Instead, he'd raced right to her side like the son she'd never had. She tried to speak to him, to thank him, to say something, anything, only for a fresh spasm of pain to arch her back. It hurts! She hated how weak she sounded in that instant. I'm in pain. I know, he soothed. I know you are. It's all right. I'm here. Breathe. She grasped at his hand. If it's a girl, pretty sure it's going to be. Gods be good. She wanted to weep. A faint keening noise escaped her lips. No more. I can't do this anymore. You can. Naruto grabbed her hand and squeezed until she gasped. The pain centered her, dragging her back from the brink. Just push. Let me handle the rest. He sounded worried. That was a bad sign. She felt so very weak. He could heal almost any wound, but no man could revive the dead, not even him. Keep your eyes open. She squeezed his hand back and managed a tremulous nod. The golden boy let go of her hand, knelt, and pulled her legs apart. She couldn't see him beneath her gown, but she didn't have to. His entire body was glowing now. He shone like the sun itself, and his eyes— oh, they were red and slitted, like the gaze of an ancient dragon. A strange scent filled the room. She wrinkled her nose against it. One of the maesters must have soiled themselves. How foul. And then, push, Emma did. With every fibre of her being, she felt something tear loose inside her, and her shout became a scream. The door crashed open behind him to admit someone. Emma barely heard it, because in that instant, a squalling little life entered the world. Naruto stumbled upright, looking terribly startled, clutching something small and pink in his arms. She knew. From the moment she heard their cry, she knew. One of the more forward-thinking meisters bustled over to help him swaddle the wailing child. Emma held her breath, waited for the words to come, the words that she knew would seal her fate. It's a girl. Emma slumped with a sob. No, none of that. Naruto handed the babe off and pinched her thigh. You're alive. Your baby is alive. Be happy. Stay awake. Someone pressed the babe, Visenya, into her arm. She held her new daughter close. Tears welled up in her eyes and she could not hold them back. How can I be happy? She scrubbed her face with a bloody hand, not caring of the stains she left behind. You don't understand. Viserys needs a son. The council will set me aside now. Everything's ruined. It was all ruined. All for naught. She was a failure, as both a wife and a mother. So tired, so weak. Emma barely felt golden hands settle on her stomach. She fell into the blackness. Chapter 5. I would much rather have someone who encourages my kindness rather than condemns it. Would you have her, then? She cares for you a great deal. That is a dangerous question. Tilda, whatever it takes, she owed Naruto her life. Emma knew that. She did, really. And a part of her was grateful that she lived. Another chance to see the sun rise over King's Landing. Another chance to hold her daughter. She had not expected to see such. Life was a great gift she knew, and she'd come perilously close to losing hers. Had she been left to fate, she and her child would be naught but ashes now. She lived solely because of his skills. But she could not sleep. She'd tried and tried and tried, but rest would not come. Because, you see, Emma was afraid. So very afraid. Afraid of being poisoned once again, afraid losing all that she had come to love, afraid of being set aside and plunging the realm into war. All this because she could not bear a son. Even now she dreaded the news that might come at any given moment, the declaration that she was no longer fit to be queen. She put on a brave face for her daughter's sake, but she could not hide the pain she felt inside. Maybe it would be better to take her life and be done with, To spare herself the pain, a mewling cry came from the crib. Emma leaned over it. Her child stared back at her. Little Visenya, her healthy baby girl, the apple of her eye. Idly, she placed her hand in the crib and let her newborn daughter grasp at her finger. Precious child. Must protect her at all costs. She certainly had a strong grip. It took more than a bit of effort to pull her hand away, and it only made her child laugh. For a moment, the little girl almost seemed to glow gold. D and sh. Emma blinked fiercely. She was seeing things. Perhaps some essence of nightshade, just a drop. Maybe it would be enough to help her sleep today. Sleep. She needed more sleep. Perhaps then the fear would finally let her be. The gods were not so kind. Her dreams were dark and full of death. 0.0, 0.0, the queen lives. 3 little words, yet they both freed and destroyed Viserys in the same instant. Oh, the news gladdened him, make no mistake. Words could not hope to describe his relief at Aemma's survival. She'd borne him a girl, another daughter, healthy, hungry, and loud by all accounts. Little Visenya would be the delight of the realm, surely. And yet, he'd wanted for a son, been so certain this one would be a boy. The dream was clearer than a memory, until it wasn't. Emma had said this child would be her last one. Viserys was inclined to believe her. This birth had nearly killed her. If Naruto had been there, if the bleeding hadn't been stopped, no, best not to think of that. Such way lay madness. He slumped in the Iron Throne, grimacing a little when it pricked his left arm again. Another bloody cut, another wound. It felt like everything was wounding him these days. With no sons born to him, Daemon remained his heir, which should have been all to the good, if the council didn't despise him. It didn't help that his younger brother was riding high after the tourney, one he'd won handily. Naruto had a hand in that matter as well. He'd been told Daemon was quite thorough when it came to decimating his opponents. The name of one Kristen Cole came to mind. He'd beaten that hedge knight handily. But he digressed. First things first, send him in. His loyal Kingsguard obeyed, and the grand doors before him creaked open as one. Naruto strode through them before they even finished parting, took one look at him, and walked his way. He looked more than a bit weary after so much time aiding Aemma with her labours, but otherwise healthy. Perhaps it was for the best that he'd foregone fighting in the tourney after all. Had he been out there winning names and glory, his lady wife would have surely perished. I am told that you are to thank for the health of my wife and daughter. Gods, it felt odd to say those words, what they both knew. But there was an order to these things. There would be a celebration later, and rewards upon rewards heaped upon the young man before him. But for now, he wished to speak to him alone. You have my eternal gratitude, sir. Rhaenyra's whiskered warrior stopped just shy of the throne and managed a tired smile. I did my best. The ghost of a grin graced his weary visage. So you did. Looking back, there had been a moment, an awful moment, when he was certain he would lose Emma and the babe both. He would have made an awful decision, killing one to save the other. And then, where would he have been? Lost. Alone. The realm thrown into chaos. Such a dreadful thought. It threatened to drag him down even now. But he refused to let it. Emma was safe. Emma was alive. Emma would not die. She would want for nothing in the days to come. He would see to that personally. But why was the young man looking at him so? Is there something you wish to say? There is, the healer heaved a sigh. But I'm not sure how to say it. By all means, speak freely. I shan't take offense. Naruto took a deep breath to steel himself. Then he looked him square in the eye and destroyed him. She's afraid. Afraid? Viserys balked. Of what? That she'll be set aside, or worse, forced to have more children. The words were a slap in the face. Who said such a thing? I'll have their tongue. She did. The boy lifted his chin and looked straight at him. Past him now, to the trio of Kingsguard between them. Do you trust these 3? They are sworn to protect me. Are they? Naruto took another step forward. The Kingsguard bridled at his unrelenting approach, hands flying to the hilts of their swords for what little good it did them. The blonde's body flickered a moment. Then he was well past them, ascending the steps to the Iron Throne without missing a single, step. Had he been an enemy, Viserys might have balked. As things stood, he merely quirked a brow and sat a little straighter on the throne. Odd? It didn't cut him this time. Mysteries upon mysteries. Still, it seemed this one held many secrets indeed. He thanked the gods every day that Rhaenyra had found him first. He did not want this one as an enemy. No, nay, never. This boy could burn cities to the ground. Credit where it was due, his Kingsguard recovered quickly and rounded on him. Swords flew from their sheaths. The tallest stepped forth, ready to defend him. Step away from the king! Don't. Blue glared over Naruto's shoulder, considering the armed trio as one might a band of unruly children, not the lethal warriors they truly were. I'm not in the mood. Get in my way and you're getting 1,000 years of death. Viserys shivered on his throne. Not an idle threat, that. Not from Naruto. Not when he was in such a foul mood. 1,000 years of death? It sounded like a most formidable technique indeed. He waved a hand. Leave us! His guards bridled, caught flat-footed by his command. But my king has spoken, he growled over their protests. I am in no danger here. Or do you think me unable to defend myself? Naruto hid a wry smile behind his hand. Beneath his gaze, they did as their king bade them and made for the doors, albeit begrudgingly. More than one looked back as they slipped through. At last, the great wooden barrier closed behind them and they were alone once more. Only then did Viserys dare face his unlikely ally. You are certain of what you heard? A nod. She was crying before you arrived, bawling her eyes out. I see. Viserys dearly wished he didn't. Ignorance was bliss. I will seek her out. He sank back into the throne with a sigh. Speak with her. Yet again he was left untouched by the blades. A matter for later. Rest assured, I will put this matter to bed. Naruto huffed. You'd better, or I'll never forgive you. Viserys winced. You have done me and mine great service. I could name you to my Kingsguard, but you don't want that, do you? A wry grin touched whiskered cheeks. Don't get me wrong. Naruto crossed both arms behind his head. Armor looks nice and all, but it's not really my style. No, he supposed not. He couldn't imagine this agile young man wanting to wear heavy plate. His power lay in his mobility, his freedom, his ability to range about the Red Keep unmolested. Otto could disparage him all he liked. After today, Naruto had proven his worth tenfold. The whole of the realm, I owe you a debt I can never truly repay. But I will try. He leaned forward against the throne. Ask anything of me. No, he amended, feeling that wasn't enough. Any 3 things of me, and if they are within my power to grant, you shall have them. Wealth, fame, power, anything you wish. The boy's face went red, not from anger, but embarrassment. I don't deserve, you do. Viserys tapped Blackfire down against the throne, silencing him. You have been a loyal companion to Rhaenyra and done good service to my wife. You deserve more than a mere knighthood. When the blonde didn't respond, he heaved a sigh and slouched anew. You truly are an enigma. With but a single stroke, I could make you a lord. You and your descendants both from this day until your last day. And yet you hesitate. Is it humility, I wonder? Or something else? As I said before, I'd rather stay here in the keep, with Rhaenyra. Viserys caught the hint, even if the blonde before him remained blind to it. Rhaenyra had been positively gushing the last time she'd spoken of him. She held nothing but praise and admiration for this young man. And he seemed rather fond of her. He'd seen the way they stared at one another when they thought the other wasn't looking. His daughter had even taken up dagger work under Naruto's instruction. Seeing the two of them together made him feel alive in a way he hadn't been for years. Perhaps Viserys knuckled a fist against his cheek, considering the matter a moment more. He and Aemma had been forced together at a young age, but love blossomed between them in time. Could the same not happen to these two? Was there a chance? Another, smaller, less altruistic voice that argued for its sake as well. That kind of power in the Targaryen blood. It would make them legends. No longer would they have to rely solely upon their dragons to keep lords and ladies in line. Theirs would become an empire spanning for hundreds of years. But he could not ask such a thing directly. It would ruin their fun. Surely there must be something you want. For some reason that set the blonde to coughing. Nope, nothing comes to mind. Naruto hastily scratched at a whiskered cheek with one finger. Any chance I hold on to those favors for a while? Can't really think of anything to ask right now. Viserys barked a laugh. As you wish. How fares Rhaenyra? That smile became a touch less strained. Fussing over her new sister. Said she's going to put an egg in her cradle today. That sounded like her. Then we shall leave her to it for now. There are things I would speak of with you. Tell me, son, have you ever been taught to woo another? Naruto tilted his head. Woo! 0.0. Visenya was an energetic child. Not necessarily a bad thing, Rhaenyra found. Her new sister did not fuss or cry as a normal babe might, but neither would she be still at that. She always had to be moving and looking, holding on to someone, something, or barring that, being held. And her eyes? They were the brightest shade of rippling violet she'd ever seen. If Naruto was to be believed, and he was, he'd expended no small amount of energy to keep baby Visenya alive. It showed. She was out of danger now and wild as a dragon. This girl was going to be special. She just knew it. Rhaenyra sighed. You're going to be a feisty little sister, aren't you? The babe burbled happily up at her as she set Dreamfire's egg in her cradle. It was a darker colour, reminding her of Vhagar. She knew it would hatch. She just knew it. Truth be told, she rather liked the idea of being a big sister. To have a little life to guide and mentor, to have and to hold, to mould in all the right ways. And she feared she might have to, if Mother was sleeping all the time. Even now she was lounging on the bed, only a few feet away, sound asleep. Essence of nightshade, no doubt. The door creaked open behind her, shattering that thought. Naruto eased his way into the nursery behind her, wearing a rather curious expression, something she couldn't quantify. He looked weary. She could see the dark circles under his eyes. When was the last time he'd slept? How much energy had he spent, ensuring her lady mother and sister would survive? The question troubled her greatly. He deserved a proper reward for that, not empty promises. Thank you. She stepped to him with a whisper, hating herself for the tremor in her voice. For saving my mother and my sister. His face grew a little warm under her gaze. It was nothing. It is not nothing. She grabbed his arm and bared her teeth at him like the dragon she was at heart. They live because of you. Never forget that. I haven't. He patted her hand, still gripping his wrist. Your old man promised me 3 favors for helping. His words drew a baffled blink from her. 3? My, but father was being generous. Didn't know what to do with them. He shrugged helplessly, drawing her attention once more. So I'm holding on to him for now. He wanted to make me one of his Kingsguard. Rhaenyra's heart leaped into her throat. No, he couldn't. But I declined. Naruto finished, quelling her frantic pulse. Not really my thing. Good. She hated how weak she sounded. That is good. You cannot be a Kingsguard. You are... He blinked her way. Mine. Oh gods, she'd nearly said the word aloud. Bad Rhaenyra! Down, girl! Control thyself. You are important, she said instead, looking away to hide her flush. Your talents would be wasted with them. On that, we agree. He looked past her to her sister's cradle, made curious by the sounds coming from within. You put an egg in there already? I did, she answered quickly, all too happy for the change in topic. Would you like to see? Naruto leaned over the cradle to regard little Visenya. Her baby sister babbled gormlessly at him and pawed at his hand. She actually managed to latch onto it. Ow! He laughed and yanked his arm back. Quite the grip she's got. I wonder what it's like, bonding with a dragon. He ran his fingers over her egg, humming softly. Sure, I can calm him down in a pinch, maybe even make friends with him, but a bond? That's something I'll never have. He turned and looked her square in the eye. Your people are born with your dragons. You tame dragons, live with your dragons, and you'll probably die with your dragons. I kinda envy you, you know? A pale brow rose. You envy me? In that regard, yes. He granted her a boyish grin. Have you ever heard baby dragons sing? She preened a little. I have. It's beautiful. A series harsh cracks echoed in Visenya's crib. Rhaenyra rounded on the sound. It was a noise she knew all too well. She darted back to her sister's crib just in time to see the egg split from within. A snout thrust itself through one of the cracks, followed by a claw, then a tail. It struggled for a moment before Naruto took pity on it and gave the egg a solid tap with one finger. More cracks spread across the egg. The rest, as they say, was history. In short order, a dragon fought its way free from the fractured egg and sprawled out in the crib beside little Visenya. Rhaenyra took a moment to wonder at it, for the creature's scales were a deep russet bronze, its eyes the colour of finest rubies. She'd never seen anything quite like it. The hatchling only had eyes for her sister. No one else. Even now it curled up beside her sibling. It did not protest when little Visenya cooed and tugged at its tail. If anything, such an act only compelled the creature to curl tighter around her, furling her with its tiny wings as though to shield her from all the evils of the world. The worm took one look at Rhaenyra and warbled out a warning. Its actions amused her. Although it was much, much smaller than her, it actually dared to hiss. Huh. Naruto muttered. So that's what it sounds like. So young, and already so protective of its charge. Visenya would have to name it someday, when she was older. Until then, it would remain nameless. Naruto dared to reach in for the little hatchling. It nipped at his finger, drawing blood. This didn't dissuade him, nor did he flinch. He simply reached in the rest of the way and ran a tan hand over its head. In a matter of moments, it was crooning softly. A miracle girl with her miraculous dragon. Visenya was going to be a very special child indeed. Emma groaned suddenly from her bed and Rhaenyra felt her smile sour. Blast! She hadn't expected Mother to wake so soon. Hey, you're finally awake! Neither had Naruto at that, because he quickly left her side and toward hers. How are you feeling? Are you dizzy? Do you need anything to drink? A nod, and he pressed a glass of water to her lips. She drank greedily. Easy now. Slow sips. You should have let me die yesterday, dear boy. She pulled back to look right at Naruto with haunted eyes. It would have been a kindness. The boy bridled. Death is never a kindness. She looked away from him, refusing to drink further. As you say, leave me. A host of curious emotions flashed across his face. Rhaenyra saw them all. Grief, anger, loss. Look at your daughters. He bit out the words at last. There's your reason to live. He whirled, marched to the door, flung it open and stalked out. All this in an instant. By the time Rhaenyra realized what had transpired, he was already gone. Naruto! She took a step after him, paused, then glared at her mother. Why are you being this way? He saved your life! Emma looked back to her, scrutinizing her face. A soft smile dawned. You're fond of him. Her nerves tingled. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. She scowled at her. No, I don't. Yes, Mother hummed the first word. You do. The ghost of a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. I can hear it in your voice. You just haven't realized it yet. Be good to him, won't you? He is strong, but his heart is so very fragile. What was she on about? Bah! Riddles and vagaries. Why was Mother smiling at her in such a manner? Why was her heart beating so bloody fast? Why was she running after Naruto? 0.0, 0.0. The small council seated themselves before him once more. Viserys took them in at a glance. Grand Maester Mellos. Master of Coin, Lyman Beesbury. Master of Laws, Lionel Strong. Master of Ships, Corlys Velaryon. And of course, Otto Hightower. Demon was nowhere to be found, no doubt carousing in Flea Bottom with that woman of his. What was her name? Mysaria? It mattered not, so long as his brother kept out of trouble. And then Otto stuck his boot right in it. Your Grace, he cleared his throat, then rallied. This is the last thing any of us wish to discuss at this hour, but I consider the matter urgent. His brow furrowed. He felt energized today, more awake than he'd ever been, more aware, and far less patient. He wanted to be with Aemma, wanted this meeting over and done with. What matter? That of your succession, his hand answered. You are left without an obvious heir, Lord Corlys bridled. The king has an heir, my lord Hand. Otto barreled on. Despite how difficult this time is, your grace, I feel it important the succession be firmly in place for the stability of the realm. The succession is already set, Lord Strong interjected now, by precedent and law. Shall we say his name? Corlys took his seat at last. Demon is the heir. Maester Mellos clicked his tongue. If he were to remain uncontested heir, it would destabilize the realm. The realm? Lord Corlys scoffed. Or this council, Otto sighed. No one here could know what Demon would do were he king, but no one can doubt his ambition. Aha, Viserys understood now. Oh yes, he knew full well where this was going. Had he always been so blind, so pliable, so easily manipulated? Look what he did with the gold cloaks, Otto prattled on. The City Watch is fiercely loyal, an army 2,000 strong. An army you gave him, Otto. Viserys rounded on him, gnashing his teeth. I named Demon Master of Laws, but you said he was a tyrant. As Master of Coin, you said he was a spendthrift that would beggar the realm. Putting him in charge of the City Watch was your solution. A half measure, your grace. His hand sighed. The truth is, Demon should be far away from this court. No, he would not allow it. He'd sooner lop off his own arm. Demon is my brother, my blood. He will have his place at my court. Let him keep his place at court, your great, Meister Melos rumbled. But if the gods should visit some further tragedy upon you, either by design or accident, design? He felt he could breathe fire in this moment. What are you saying? My brother would murder me? Take my crown. Are you? No one dared speak. Please. He scoffed into the silence that followed. Demon has ambition, yes, but not for the throne. He lacks the patience for it. The gods have yet to make a man who lacks the patience for absolute power, your grace. Of course Otto would say such. He couldn't attack Naruto. He didn't dare. Not after today. Demon's position was not so unassailable. We must discussion the succession. Must we? Viserys felt the dragon stir in his chest. There is nothing to discuss. Demon remains my heir until such a time as a son is born to me. Under such circumstances, Lord Beesbury coughed into a fist, it would not be an aberration for the king to name another successor. Lord Strong quirked a dark brow. But who else would have a claim? Otto seemed to draw inward on himself. The king's firstborn child, Rhaenyra. A girl? Lord Strong became incredulous. No queen has ever sat the Iron Throne. That is only by tradition and precedence. Lord Strong, Meister Melos tried to interject, but the Lord of Harrenhal barreled right over him. If order and stability so concerns this council, then perhaps we shouldn't break 100 years of it by naming a girl heir. Demon would be a second Mager, or worse. Otto burst out. Would he? Viserys saw his opening and took it. He seems much softened these last few weeks. I dare say Naruto's blunted some of his sharper edges. No use. Otto had a decidedly mulish look about him. He is impulsive and violent. It is the duty of this council to protect the king and the realm from him. I'm sorry, your grace, but that is the truth as I see, and I know that others here agree. Anger flashed through him again, and he found himself gripping the hilt of his dagger to still it. I will not be made to choose between my brother and my daughter. We are peace. I am not prepared to start a war where none is needed. You wouldn't have to, your grace. Lord Corlys surprised him by coming to his rescue. Or so he thought. There are others who would have a claim, Lord Strong barked a laugh. Such as your wife? The queen who never was? Rhaenys was the only child of Jaehaerys' eldest son. Corlys snarled back. She had a strong claim at the Great Council. All here know this. And she already has a male heir. Otto laughed bitterly. Just moments ago you announced your support for Demon. If we cannot agree on an heir, how can we expect the realm to… Enough! Hold a moment. Why did his hand hurt so much? Viserys looked down to find his fist gripping his drawn dagger. Valyrian steel sheathed within the table, buried to the hilt. When had he drawn it? All looked to him. For the first time he saw fear in their eyes. Fear not for him, but of him. This was it, his moment. Balerion had chosen him all those years ago for a reason. Even near death, the Lord of Dragons had seen the fire in him yet. It roused now and bared its fangs at the vultures before him. That is not a matter I wish to discuss at this time. He silenced the man with a glower as he drew his knife and sheathed it once more. My wife just suffered a difficult birth. She needs rest, not needling to breed again. Because of that boy. Careful, Lord Corlys. He rounded on the speaker. As far as I am concerned, this boy you speak is as family to me. I will not let you speak ill of him. The Lord of Driftmark lifted his chin in open defiance. You show too much favour to him. And you not enough, he retorted. The boy possessed extraordinary gifts. I would keep him close. Lord Strong sniffed out his intent. You intend to have him wed? I do. To whom? Otto looked like he'd sucked on a lemon. The ghost of a smile touched the corner of his mouth. I am mulling over a match, but nothing is certain. Lord Beesbury sniffed. Power aside, he has no lands, no wealth. Only a knighthood to his name. But he does have honour. Viserys stared the older man down until he averted his gaze. Principles. You, Grace. No one has even seen him fight. He disdains the game. Reluctance to murder is not a weakness. Perhaps we are going about this the wrong way. Meister Melos dragged himself upright in his chair, metal links clanking around his neck. The queen will be able to breed again, and when she does… No. The council fell quiet. It took Viserys another moment to realize he'd been the one to say that word. Otto broke the silence first. You grace? I said no. They had grown accustomed to his kindness, of him yielding to them. No more. I will not press Ima for another child. She has suffered enough. And he had been lenient for far too long. What had Demon told him once? He was the dragon. His word was law. It was high time they remembered. Then, perhaps we should. I will hear no talk of setting her aside. Out came the dagger again. The next man to suggest it will lose his tongue, and an eye besides. There is another way. Much to his disbelief, Otto actually rallied once more. Do not set her aside, but take another wife, as Aegon did before. The sheer audacity of it silenced Viserys outright, leaving his tongue heavy in his mouth. One could have heard a pin drop in the silence that followed. And then, they all went mad. Are you mad? Lord Strong flung up a hand. Never mind the realm, the faith would never stand for it. The common folk will understand. There will be rebellion. Then we shall... My wife and daughter nearly died. Viserys surged to his feet. The sudden movement silenced his counsel. I will not sit here and watch crows circle them while they yet live. No one, not even Otto, dared challenge him. He refused to look at them and made for the door. His Kingsguard followed. With his right hand he sheathed his dagger. With the left, he thrust the council doors open and marched through them, uncaring of the scene he made. He wanted only to be gone from this place and be with his wife. The doors creaked shut behind him. He kept walking, through the darkness, even as shadows fell across his face. Perhaps it was time. A visit to the dragon pit might be in order. He might even go after this very meeting. He had not sought out another dragon after Balerian's death. In truth, he'd never felt the need. He'd only ridden the Black Dread once, yes, but he remembered how to ride. Every Targaryen was trained in such as soon as they learned to walk, and such lessons did not fade with time. His council would learn to listen to him again as they once had. He and the dragon he was about to seek. Yes, he decided, as he heard raised voices echo in the chamber he'd just left. A visit to the dragon pit was most certainly in order. 0.0.0. Love. Rhaenyra found the very concept puzzling. Did she know what love was? She loved mother, she loved father, and she loved little Visenya. She loved Syrax as she loved her dear friend Alicent. Did she love Naruto? She wasn't sure. They'd only known one another a short while, and yet she found herself enjoying his company all the same. No, more than that. If not for him, her mother and baby sister would be gone, dead and burning, ashes on a pyre. Her heart clenched at the thought, and anxiety buzzed through her as she raced down the hall. Naruto had put an end to that future. Mother would never die in childbirth now. For that she was forever grateful, if not more. Maybe Mother was right. Maybe she was fond of him after all. Naruto was a mystery, an enigma, a puzzle she longed to solve. He was Foxfire. This time it was she who caught up to him, and no, Rhaenyra didn't miss the delicious irony in that. She found him drilling with his new daggers in the yard, tearing apart a practice dummy with lethal dispatch. Rather than approach, she lingered instead, watching him from afar, entranced by his movements. No mad magic to be seen here. This was sheer skill, instinct incarnate. He carved his silent foe up like a cake and left it in pieces. Were his opponent human, they would have been a bloody mess at his feet. He really was upset, wasn't he? She coughed to gain his attention. He spun, and for a fleeting instant she glimpsed more than anger in his face, for unshed tears gleamed in his eyes. He blinked them away quickly and recovered, but the expression stayed with her. The sight of his sorrow hurt her more than she dared admit. His pain was hers. I don't understand your mom. He flung up his arms and despaired. She has plenty to live for. How can she want to die? I might, Rhaenyra thought to herself. If I were in Mother's position, forced to squeeze out children year after year with no reprieve, I might want to die as well. Her parents loved one another dearly, but to willingly put oneself through that kind of pain, what could possibly compel such madness? Uncle Demon had laughed when she'd asked him. There's more to it than pain, dear niece. You'll understand someday. Would she? Rhaenyra had very much doubted it at the time. Now she began to see the truth of those words. She felt her heart quicken again, as it often had in his presence, and felt compelled to move to his side. He was hurting. She wanted to help, wanted to take him in her arms and hold him close, tell him all was well, that he had nothing to fear. He was still looking to her, awaiting an answer. It is a sad world we live in, she said at length, choosing her words with infinite care. My dear mother has suffered through this since she was younger than me. Is it any wonder she craves a reprieve? That's different, he huffed, no doubt made rather indignant by the truth of her words. But to want death… No more of this! She couldn't bear to see him in pain anymore. There was only one thing for it. Sit. She gestured to a nearby wooden bench. He squinted her way. Why? Please, she begged. Fine. He did as she bade. There! I'm sitting now, wah hey! His words peaked into a strangle noise as she deftly stepped in and took him from behind, wrapping her arms around him as her chin came down atop his shoulder. He stiffened at her close proximity. What are you doing? Hugging you, she answered honestly. Alicent often does this for me when I'm stressed. It helps ever so much. No response from him. That simply wouldn't do. She paused to consider him, wholly out of her depth. Is this helping? A hoarse little laugh left his lips. A bit. He leaned back into her, and Rhaenyra found herself yelping a little as she staggered. Heavy. She pushed her body into his back to steady herself, but that pressed them even closer to one another and left her rubbing her cheek against his. The faint smell of sunshine and, what had he called it? Chakra reached her nose. It was a strangely pleasant aroma. I won't her die. When he finally spoke, his voice was a whisper, for her ears and hers alone. You or her? I swear it. She smiled softly. I know. I never go back on my word. I know, she crooned softly. You never do. A sudden whim seized her and she acted upon it. Naruto made a small noise of annoyance when she let go of him, only to frown when sat beside him, took a hold of his head and guided him into her lap. Oi! His face went so very red. What are you… You must rest. She began to stroke his hair with one hand, uncaring of which she might see. Let the fools state, let them gossip. Let them whine and cry and piss and moan at what they believed to be an indecent act. She was a dragon. Fire and blood were her words. She cared naught for what the sheep thought. They were all so small to her she barely even noticed them. Naruto tried to rise. Rhaenyra knew she had no hope of wrestling him back down, not with his strength, and so she hissed at him instead. No! She glared violet daggers his way. You've been running yourself ragged since yesterday. Sit with me a while, my knight. Rest and recover yourself. The storm will pass. When you wake, I wish to train with you. He bit back a yawn. Will you still be here when I wake up? I will. She laid one hand over his own. I promise. Gonna hold you to that. His eyelids began to droop. Within a matter of moments, he was fast asleep. Chapter 6. A wise man once said, to win any battle, you must fight as if you are already dead. Do you understand? No? Let me put it differently. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. It may seem difficult at first, but everything is difficult at first. Fixation is the way to death. Fluidity, now that's the way to life. Bend but do not break. Never break. Sure, they'll spit at you. Curse you even. But I'll let you in on a little secret. To make anyone immediately regret insulting you, show that you're unaffected. Don't blink. Don't flinch. Don't give them the satisfaction that they seek. And in time, they'll realize what fools they were. Tilda? Fire and blood, the cavern awaited. It called to Viserys, urging him down to its depths. And so the king walked forth, venturing into the mountain that was Dragonstone. He could feel it in his bones now. He was meant to be here. Perhaps he always had been, but had simply ignored the call. No longer. Down into the darkness he went, torch in hand, braving death and darkness for destiny. The irony wasn't lost on him. This might make a fine melody, assuming he survived, because the dragons awaited. He could hear them singing in the depths. Theirs was a song of fire and blood, a trilling primal melody that spoke to his very soul. It had occurred to him, in the beginning, that he might have brought Naruto to the Isle with him, the better to soothe any prospective partner they might stumble across. In the end, he'd decided against it. Doing so would cheapen the act of bonding with any of the Rims within. He had to know if he could still do it after all these years. Claim a dragon, by himself, alone. He was taking a mighty risk by doing this in the first place. Dragons were known to devour those they rejected. He'd left Demon at the cavern entrance with strict instructions. Who else could he trust with this? Who better to ferry him to Dragonstone in the dead of night? Demon was loyal to him. He would not betray his trust, no matter what those on the council might think. If I am not returned by sunset, I am dead. Good luck, brother. He'd clapped his shoulder. Luck. Yes, this would take a great deal of the latter. Viserys began to sing an old Valyrian ditty under his breath, the better to steel his nerves as he descended deeper into the dark. Hopefully it wouldn't offend the dragons. Daemon had always been the better singer between the two of them. Speaking of two wanted to bring Aemma down here. Perhaps he would now that was fully recovered. She had Targaryen blood as well. It wasn't too late. There was still time. He could fix his mistakes, no, he would fix them. The House of the Dragon could yet be saved. After what seemed an eternity, Viserys felt the stairs beneath his feet and realized he was ascending, climbing towards a flat platform. He could hear something breathing beyond it in the dark ahead of him. Something large. His heart began to hammer in his chest. Sweat beaded upon his brow. He laid the torch down and finished his song. A great shadow stirred. He glimpsed a tail coiling round the steps. An ancient rumble rattled the cavern, causing his very teeth to tremble in his jaw. And then the dragon sang a song of its own. Flame burst forth from its maw as it screamed. Napalm bathed the ceiling, revealing the true bulk of the beast. At length the blaze died. The dragon swept its massive head down, and Viserys found himself delighted, because in the light of his fallen torch, he recognized this beast. Vermithor. This was the Bronze Fury, riderless for 3 decades since the death of his lord grandfather Jaehaerys. Viserys had seen him many a time before as a boy, both up close and afar. As such, he knew him by sight. Long had he hoped to find him down here in the depths, but never in his wildest dreams did he think he would encounter him so soon. Gods, how he had grown down here. He was larger. Large enough, perhaps, to rival even Vhagar herself, if it ever came to a fight. His mate Silverwing was rumoured to be down here in the Dragon Mount as well. They never left one another's side. But it was not Silverwing he faced now. Now came the truest test of his mettle. The moment of truth. All or nothing. You know me. You know why I am here. There was no tremor in his voice. No, not now. Nary this time. I am Viserys of House Targaryen, first of my name. He raised his right arm and gripped his wrist, forcing himself to stand his ground. Son of Baelor, grandson of Jaehaerys, your last rider. Hearken to me. Vermithor's growl deepened, gaining a deep bass note. Viserys saw flame build behind those jaws, and his death in those flames. But he did not falter. To flinch now meant death. Still the fire built. Movement meant the end of him. Yet if he said nothing, he would surely burn. Only seconds remained. Viserys could feel the searing kiss of heat on his face. He made his choice. I am not your enemy, he shouted at him in Valyrian. Vermithor's fire guttered out slowly, almost reluctantly as he looked on. Viserys sucked in a sharp breath to steady his own heart. And well that he held that breath, because the mighty bronze dragon bulled in closer to regard him further. Its scaled muzzle drew back in a snarl, bringing the faint scent of sulphur. A single snap of those might jaws could bite him in two, and there would be naught he could do about it. He snorted, inhaled now, testing his scent. Gods be good. Was he actually going through with this? Viserys let his arm fall and willed himself to be absolutely still. He'd taken his gamble. The slightest movement on his part might well spell death if he wasn't careful. He could see himself in Vermithor's eye now, his own reflection gazing back at him within that slitted, angry pupil. He took his chance, removed his glove, and laid a hand against great dragon's bronze snout, just beneath its leftmost nostril. Please, he whispered softly to the dragon, not a command, but a plea. Help me save the realm. The pupil dilated as Vermithor stared at him overlong. At length, the dragon's angry growl eventually softened, becoming a softer, high-pitched trill as the king stroked his snout. Viserys knew that noise. He'd heard it once before when he was but a prince himself, when an ancient, dying dragon accepted him for its final flight. In an instant, he was taken back to that fateful day, that moment. Now, just as Balerion the Black Dread had long ago, Vermithor the Bronze Fury bowed his head. Viserys finally dared to exhale, and with it he felt a burden lift from his shoulders. An exhausted smile stretched across his face. He'd done it. Grandfather's dragon had accepted him. He would not be riding Caraxes back to King's Landing with his brother. Oh no. He would fly. Daemon would laugh himself silly when he saw this. The small council wouldn't. This recent development would make them nervous. Otto perhaps even more so. Good. It was high time they remembered who he was. Naruto and Rhaenyra would probably be over the moon to see another dragon. Something else moved in the dark behind Vermithor. Without warning, the bronze fury nudged Viserys, as if it wanted to show him something. Not quite trusting his eyes, the king glimpsed another shadow in the dark. He peered into the gloom, wondering if he'd catch sight of it. Quiet suddenly, he saw her, Silverwing. Somewhat smaller than Vermithor, but no less dangerous for it, the former dragon of good Queen Alysanne nevertheless raised her head to regard him as her mate, pushed him forward. He could see her wings slouched in the dark, scales shimmering in the fading torchlight behind her mate. Her long body was curled around something. Gods be good. Eggs. So many eggs. He could see 9 of them from there. There might be more in the dark. Silverwing, too, considered him for a long moment as though to say, well, where is she? Where is your queen? Where is my next rider? Bring her hence. Viserys couldn't help himself. A disbelieving laugh burst from him. Soft and sharp it echoed in the cavern. If he, a tired old king, could bond himself to a beast like Vermithor, then surely Aemma had a chance. Targaryen blood ran through her veins as well, and perhaps a mad idea was born. He must bring his family here. At once, the House of the Dragon would truly flourish once more. 0.0. Naruto didn't like Sir Criston Cole. He couldn't rightly say why he disliked the newest member of the Kingsguard, only that he did. The man in question wasn't even a bad person per se, just too defined by a strict code of honor. It didn't help that Rhaenyra had been the one to elected him to said Kingsguard herself, making the man even more indebted to her. Everywhere she went, Cole followed like a watchful hound. Always. Every damn time. It was bloody exasperating. He had his morals, sure, but he wasn't trapped by some strange vow. Oaths and promises were sacred things, not meant to be soared lightly. Yet sworn them Cole had. He'd sworn and sworn and sworn. Time would tell if he kept them. He couldn't help but feel that Cole would falter when the time came. He seemed humble, but there was something inherently arrogant about Sir Criston that made him wary of the man. Even after Daemon had knocked his Dornish arse to the dirt, that pride hadn't abated. Even now, the man was shadowing him around the Red Keep as he looked for Rhaenyra. In part because he didn't know where she'd run off to either. They'd walked in silence for the better part of 5 minutes now. You are too close to the princess these days, Naruto sighed. It was too much to hope it would last. What she and I do is none of your business. The new knight didn't take the bait. I believe it is. That's cute. He kept walking, refusing to look back and give the man the time of the day. You know, you're awfully proud for a man who ate dirt a few weeks ago. Didn't you lose to Daemon in the tourney? I recall him knocking you on your ass. Cole's face reflected no outward sign of anger, but it was there. He could sense it, smouldering just under the surface. The prince is skilled, and I'm better, Naruto rounded on him, bringing him up short. Keep that in mind before you do something foolish. Cole considered him for a long moment. The ghost of a smile graced his tan face. You love her, don't you? He's not wrong. Hey. Naruto felt his face burn as he whirled and marched away. I don't even know what love is. I've never felt it before, you know. He enjoyed being around Rhaenyra. She'd proven herself a capable student, and she was improving with her daggers. Nothing simpler, right? His face felt strangely warm. He shook it off. Nevertheless, you cannot be with her. You are lowborn. Cole, the blithering idiot, actually dared to press the point as he followed. She is a princess. The two of you cannot be. The king will never allow it. She's my friend. The silence was his answer. Bah! Showed what little he knew. Viserys, when they met in private, seemed to delight in taking every opportunity to push him and Rhaenyra together. He would encourage them to ride on Dragonback, walk through the gardens, train with the Master of Arms, visit little Visenya and her growing dragon, anything so long as the two of them did it together. They even ate together during meals. Not that Naruto minded. If Rhaenyra's father was angling after something, it seemed benevolent enough. Kind even, when compared to the grasping ambitions of the small council. Viserys had been nothing but good to him. And this man, this up-jumped knight, thought he knew the king. Knew him. Knew any of this. Enough! His shot out, pulverizing a nearby pillar to powder. He heard the sharp intake of breath behind him. Cole had seen that. Good. Let him see and wonder. Let him realize the perils of poking a fox. Sir Criston. The words were an angry rasp. You're making M angry. A scarlet eye peered over his shoulder. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Something rattled the red keep above. Naruto squinted toward the opaque sky. A dark blur hurtled by as fast as it was large. He couldn't see it against the sun. Another dragon? Just how many did King's Landing have? Much to his annoyance, Cole rallied and recaptured his attention. I have no quarrel with you, sir. Only respect. Which is why I wish to warn you. Warn whom of what? Rhaenyra rounded the corner ahead of them, face carved from stone. Had she been eavesdropping? The argument must have distracted him. He hadn't sensed her. Oh dear. She didn't look happy. There was a fire in her eye that he hadn't seen in a while. She didn't so much walk as she did stalk. She was wearing her dragon-riding leathers today, and he immediately noticed the daggers in her belt. Good. He kinda liked that black outfit. Cole bowed his head. My lady, it is good we found you. 'Twould seem it was I who found you. She sniffed at him. There you are. Keen violet eyes found Naruto, and her gaze softened. You're late. It's time for practice. He nodded, grateful for the olive branch she'd offered. That's why I was looking for you. Where to this time? Her grin made his heart race. I was thinking near the heart tree today. Would that suffice? Good place. Quiet enough. Downright secluded. Nice and quiet. Fine by me. Lovely. Those lively orbs of hers lit up. Then let us be off. Cole moved to follow. Rhaenyra whirled to face the King's Guard and fixed him with a smouldering glare. I have another task for you today, Sir Criston. You will guard my mother. The former hedge knight made to protest naturally. My lady, I don't think that would be a wise decision. It would be, go, she commanded. Unless you think your talents are best suited to cleaning the privy for the next month. No, my lady. Good boy. She tutted, turned and offered Naruto her arm. Shall we? Naruto couldn't help but smile as he claimed it. We shall. Arm in arm, the unlikely duo walked away. Behind them, Cole ground his teeth. 0.0, 0.0. Visenya had finally fallen asleep. Gods be good, but her daughter didn't like sleeping. Emma would have found it amusing if she weren't so exhausted. Little Visenya lay nestled in her arms, sleeping soundly. Thank the seven for small miracles. Her youngest was a wild little thing when awake. She refused to sleep unless she utterly exhausted herself, which meant she had to be babbling, crawling, grabbing at anyone and anything within arm's reach. Then there was the matter of Visenya's dragon. Even now, the little hatchling remained protective of its charge, refusing to let Visenya out of its sight for more than a few minutes at a time. Today it had decided to curl itself around Emma's shoulders like some kind of cat. Emma didn't much mind. The days were getting colder and its scales were warm. It was growing slowly, but most dragons did when they were small. This little one would not need the dragon pit for some time yet, not until it hit its inevitable growth spurt. Well? He tilted her head to regard the still nameless little beast. Are you going to rest as well? It chirped at her and coiled down round her shoulders. Sunlight glinted off its brilliant onyx scales. Within moments it was sound asleep. The song of a baby dragon truly was a wondrous thing to behold. Emma had heard it many times these past few months. It always made her heart dance. Sometimes she caught herself longing for one of her own. But no, that door was closed to her. She'd grown up in the Vale before being wed to Viserys. That time had come and gone. The nursery door creaked open. Ah, speak of the devil. There was Viserys now. Emma sat a little straighter in her chair at his entry. Husband. Wife. He looked away with a rueful expression. How are you feeling? Better. She granted him a tiny smile, holding Visenya close. My breasts are still dreadfully swollen. That drew a laugh from him as he crossed the room to her side. As I recall, you were rather cross about that the last time. The sleeping hatchling resting on her shoulders chirruped softly as though in agreement. Emma chuckled for a moment. Things were still somewhat strained between them, but less so these days. Viserys never seemed to quite know what to say around her, but he was trying, she'd give him that. He'd not laid with her in a while, either. Perhaps he was afraid to inflict the agony of childbirth upon her again. Perhaps there was hope? A familiar scent reached her noise. She inhaled, frowned a little now. You smell of dragon, husband. He truly did. Where have you been? Preparing. He moved to her bedside, knelt before her and clasped her hand in his. I have failed you, Emma. Forgive me. Emma's heart hitched in her chest. How she'd wanted to hear those words. For him to admit his mistake. You have Targaryen blood, as much as I, half on your mother's side. He continued softly. How could I forget? Come with me to Dragonstone. She wasn't prepared for what followed. There's a dragon I wish for you to meet, as I have. Realization fell upon her in a storm. You claimed another. She balked at him. That's why you smell of such. Who? His grin grew a bit more boyish and she felt her heart flutter. Vermithor. The name rocked her world. Gods be good. That beast? Then what he was asking of her? The one he wished her to meet in Dragonstone, the beast waiting in Dragonstone. Me? She startled, realizing what he wished of her. You want me? To claim a dragon? Silverwing, no less? I couldn't possibly. I don't know how to ride a dragon, much less claim one. Viserys squeezed her hands. She will accept you as Vermithor did me, I am sure of it. As you were sure I would have a son. Emma nearly said the words aloud. No, that was no fault of Viserys. The gods were cruel. She had 2 darling daughters and quite possibly a son-in-law on the way. She was content. With the poison leached from her body, she felt stronger than ever. But her womb would never quicken again. She would bear no more children so long as she lived. I still don't know how to ride a dragon. Then I shall teach you when the time comes. He kissed her forehead, quelling her concerns. Have you seen Rhaenyra? Oh yes, she had. They'd come by to visit only a few minutes ago. She's off with that boy of hers by the heart tree. Emma laid her head on his shoulder. She loves him, Viserys. His smile grew a touch more rueful, fondly exasperated even. I am aware. She kissed his cheek. Then let your daughter follow her heart. 0.0, 0.0. She was getting the hang of this. Rhaenyra felt a grin flash across her face as she ducked a dagger and countered with one of her own. She didn't come anywhere close to hitting Naruto. He swayed away from her weapon all too easily, but the fact that she could react at all was a testament to just how far she'd come in such a short time. She took some small petty pride in her knife work during these short few months. Perhaps it was wrong of her to do so, but she did all the same. Training oft left her sore, but she'd built her foundation well. These days she wielded her practice daggers well. Not like a master, but well enough. Not nearly well enough to beat Naruto. Shunting aside another thrust, the bemused blonde finally went on the offensive. A dulled blade struck her shoulder, delivering a stinging slap. Rhaenyra gritted her teeth against it. Dead, her dueling partner sang, her brow furrowed. Again. As you like. She slashed at his stomach, only for him to step aside and brain with a hilt as he walked past. You are dead, Tilda. Rhaenyra yelped, still not quite used to the pain, and dropped her weapons. She bent to retrieve them, only to feel a dagger tickle the underside of her chin. Dead, he teased her, feigning an accent. Not big surprise. Bloody blasted blonde. She kicked him in the... No. Rhaenyra took a deep breath to steady herself. He wanted her angry. This was as much training for her emotions as it was her body. She wouldn't rise to the bait. He let her retrieve her weapons, allowed her fingers to curl around the hilts, biting into the loamy soil as they did. Rah! She flung dirt in his face. Good. He blocked her underhanded tactic with an arm, but his delighted cry startled her. That's the way. Fight dirty. Use every advantage you can. Like this! His daggers wove a web of steel between them, forcing her to retreat or risk another bruise. One couldn't truly block with daggers, and Rhaenyra certainly wasn't strong enough to, so she didn't even try. Instead, she gave ground and let him have his way. He'd leave an opening eventually, surely. When he swept at her legs, she leaped back lest she be knocked to the dirt. The moment she did, she realized her mistake. Her foot caught in a root and she pitched backward. Her shoulder hit the heartwood tree. Trapped. Naruto pinned her there with his body, hands spread on either side of her to hem her in. Gotcha. Heat flooded Rhaenyra's face and other places. Close. So close. Far too close. She wanted to grab him. Embrace him. Drag his face down to hers and melt into him. It would be so simple. No one was nearby. No one would see. And what if they did? She was a dragon, and she cared naught for the opinions of the sheep. Her eyes flitted up to his lips. No. Bad princess! Focus! In the end, Naruto solved the matter for her. He let her go, paced away and flung himself down into the grass by trees' roots. Rhaenyra sat beside him. Something's wrong. Tell me. Naruto sighed. You already know. She did. Cole means well. Does he? Naruto looked up from where he lay sprawled in the grass. He's almost always near us. I don't like it. She pinched his arm. If someone is to protect my father, then I would prefer that someone to have actual combat experience. Blah! Still don't like him. He was going to sulk, wasn't he? No, no, no. She couldn't be having that. She sprawled herself beside him. Let's fly to Dragonstone, then. Naruto squinted her. What brought that about? She squirmed a little under his gaze. You're feeling restless, and I want to get away from the capital for a while. Is that so wrong? Those keen blue eyes regarded her for a long moment. He saw right through her, as always. Did you and Alicent have another fight? No? Yes. Why? I just haven't seen you with her lately. Rhaenyra winced despite herself. I've been spending time with her, as much as you have with Demon. He quirked a blonde brow her way. Jealous? Of my own uncle? She scoffed. Hardly. They shared a laugh. It could be, just the two of us. She reached over and laid a hand on his. No one need know. He rolled over in the grass to look at her. Rhaenyra found herself doing the same. A spark passed between them. Their fingers threaded through one another's, only for them to look away, neither quite having the courage or the experience to act upon it. She didn't let go of his hand, nor he hers. Despite their shared hesitation, she couldn't help but feel that some semblance of progress had been made. So, Dragonstone, then? Naruto nodded. Sure, why not? An excellent idea, a new voice chimed. Naruto jumped, but not as much as Rhaenyra. Father? Viserys sauntered toward them, grinning ear to ear and looking strangely dishevelled, as though he'd just walked through a windstorm. And what was that smell? Rhaenyra frowned his way. What has you in such a good mood? He smiled. It's a secret. We're alone here, you can tell us. Ah, but it wouldn't be a secret then, would it? He winked good-naturedly. Your visit to Dragonstone. I'll sanction it. We shall go together. All of us. You, me, your mother, and little Visenya. And her dragon, of course. Naruto's brow shot up into his hair. Is that a good idea? Her father laughed. Otto can run the capital well enough in my absence. Naruto made a face. He was still mulling over it all when Rhaenyra burst to her feet. You smell of dragon. A knowing glint gleamed in her violet eyes. You've been the dragon pit. Not as such. The king offered a rueful smile. Still, I wasn't aware I'd become quite so pungent. But that meant... You went to Dragonstone? Indeed I was. His smile gained a hint of pride. I'd like to bring you both. There's something I wish to show you. Rhaenyra exchanged a long, lingering look with Naruto. If you insist. Naruto shrugged his agreement. Should be fun. So it was decided. 0.0. Once more, intruders had come to his isle, invaders unto his kingdom. The dragon could smell them. Their scent was finally here. He lifted his head with a rumbling growl. At last, at long last, all he would feed. Chapter 7. Dreams didn't make us kings. Dragons did. Tilda, here be dragons. Your Grace, I must voice my protest on this matter. Otto was opposed to the very idea, of course. Naruto wasn't surprised. Alicent's father was nothing like her. He had stood against him from the very first, against all he said, all he did, all he thought. Today proved no different. It didn't matter that the initial idea came from Viserys himself, or that the king had all but sanctioned it. No, no, no. He was going with them to Dragonstone, and because of that, Otto opposed it still. Voice it all you like. Viserys, bless his soul, didn't miss a beat as he lounged in his seat. This is not a matter for discussion, Otto. Where I go, my family follows. Ah, bearded bastard looked like he choked on a lemon. That boy is not a member of the royal family. There'll be no more discussion on the matter. The king spoke over him, forcing his hand to be silent. We shall return within a week's time. There was a byplay to his words that hadn't existed prior. Something in Viserys had hardened since the last small council meeting. Whatever it was, it made him far less susceptible to the whims and wishes of his council. He rather liked it. Until then, I leave King's Landing in your capable hands. No one else on the small council dared to object further, though there more than a few bleak looks shared between them. Vermithor roared in the distant skies high above, and to a one they flinched. You shall rule the capital in my absence. The ghost of a smile plucked at the corner of Viserys's mouth. Or would you rather I leave Demon on the Iron Throne until I return? He tilted his head just so, mulling the idea over in his head or perhaps pretending to. He is my heir, after all. Mayhap he could do with a taste of ruling while he stays in the Red Keep. All the blood drained from Otto's face. That will not be necessary. Naruto didn't miss the ghost of a smile that passed across Rhaenyra's face. Not the stricken look Alicent wore. A small part of him sympathized with the poor girl these days. Really? Kurama almost scoffed. I don't. He still did, if only because he recognized her plight. Rhaenyra's friend was torn between two worlds, caught between the wishes of her father and her own desires. He couldn't choose for her, just as he couldn't quite bring himself to hate Otto. Although a small part of him almost wished to. Everything would have been so much easier if he could. Hightower kept prattling on about the good of the realm and its people. Perhaps he even believed in it these days, had deluded himself into thinking he acted in the best interest of the Seven Kingdoms. Naruto didn't serve the realm, nor the Targaryens, not really, despite what some might think. He served chaos. He went where he pleased, when he pleased, and to hell with the consequences. Chaos wasn't a pit, despite what Otto might say. It was a ladder. Many a man, and more than a few women, had tried to scale it in the past, tried to take advantage of what they saw as a weak king, but no longer. Anyone who tried to climb said ladder now was in for a nasty surprise, one full of fire and blood. It was a new age. Who knew what lay ahead? Viserys rose from his chair. I wish you good fortune while we're away. 0.0. Otto watched door close with a weary sigh. The king had found his spine. Admirable but unfortunate. Having a dragon only emboldened him all the more. What a disaster. He cast a quick look at Alicent, only to find her hurrying after Rhaenyra. Useless girl. If this continued, he might have to take matters into his own hands. For the good of the realm. 0.0. Please, wait. Against her better judgment, Rhaenyra didn't run away. Perhaps she should have. Perhaps she might have spared herself some pain if she'd simply turned her back on Alicent Hightower, then and there. Instead, she slowed half a step and let her catch up. Naruto did the same beside her. She waved him on after father. For once, he didn't argue with her. Not even a little. All to the good, that. She would have surely crumbled if he had. Good luck. He gave her a quick pat on the shoulder and a commiserating bump of the elbow against her ribs. Then he was gone, leaving her alone to fight this, possibly her most dangerous battle yet. All told, she should have joined him, but she could not. Alicent was her friend, her dearest friend, her first friend, and she wanted to keep her more than anything. But she wasn't sure she could. Not anymore. Rhaenyra had known this moment was long in coming. She'd thought herself prepared for it. She was not. Here and now, when she stood before her, she froze. I'd hoped we might discuss your visit to Dragonstone. Pride reared its ugly head in her heart, and Rhaenyra lifted her chin. There's nothing to discuss. Her heart tore even as she said the words, because Alicent actually flinched. Rhaenyra swore at herself. No! Bad tongue! Blast it all! She hadn't meant to say that. Rhaenyra, please. Alicent recovered and laid a hand on her arm. I don't know what's come between your father and mine, but this can't continue. The realm. Rhaenyra reared back like the dragon she was at heart, made incredulous by those words. Is that all you wish to say? I'm afraid I don't follow. She received a puzzled blink for her efforts. Was there something else you wished to talk about? Dirty little liar. She knew full well. About us! The flushing of Alicent's face was a fierce and sudden thing. Her pale visage turned a lovely shade of red. She looked so vulnerable. Something in Rhaenyra's heart twitched at the sight. She wanted to take her in her arms and whisper softly in her ear, tell her it was all right and never let her go. Curious. She didn't suppress the feeling but rather filed it away for later. Come with us. She seized Alicent's hands in hers. Leave the capital for a while. You'd enjoy Dragonstone. We could go flying on Syrax, and I'd show you the dragons deep down in the caverns. Alicent shook her head and looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I cannot go with you. Rhaenyra tutted softly as she squeezed her hands. Because your father won't allow it, Alicent whined. Oh dear, she hadn't done that in a while. That's not fair! Sure enough, her friend tried to tug her fingers free. She failed spectacularly, in part because Rhaenyra wouldn't allow it. She some small pleasure in her startled expression. She had always been stronger than Alicent in the past, and she was stronger still since she'd been training. She wasn't about to let her go so easily. Not here, not now, not when she finally had a hold of her. If she released her now, Alicent would scurry back in the shadows and she wouldn't hear from her for days. Unacceptable. What isn't fair? She drew her closer, glaring her into silence when she made to protest. Tell me. The tiniest spark of anger gleamed in Alicent's bright gaze. You're always with him. Aha! And now they got to the meat of the matter, as she'd always intended. A slow, satisfied smile spread across Rhaenyra's face. With whom? She played coy. Sir Criston. Naruto! Alicent's temper was slow to rouse, but once it did, she could rage with the best of them. You spend more time with him than me. We seldom speak these days. He's my friend. I'm your friend! Her fingernails bit into her palms painfully. You've been ignoring me in favor of him. If you're feeling neglected, then spend time with us. She countered smoothly, her voice soft as silk. Be with us. Another tug brought her dear friend closer still, easily close enough to embrace if she so chose. Get to know him as I have. Her forehead touched hers and she ran one thumbs over the redhead's smooth palms. You might like him. Sir Criston certainly didn't, but he wouldn't be accompanying them to Dragonstone, not this time. Try speaking with him. He may surprise you. Alicent's gaze flitted down to their intertwined fingers. He frightens me. He doesn't bite, I assure you. Rhaenyra laughed a little, recalling her training. If anything, he's quite thorough, although he does leave me a bit sore afterwards. Her dear friend's face became redder still. Rhaenyra wondered why. That's improper. For once, she truly didn't understand the Hightower's logic. What is? Her friend sputtered. What you're suggesting? A tilt of the head. What am I suggesting? She spoke of training, of course. Alicent didn't know that, and from that simple misunderstanding, something beautiful would bloom. But that is a story for another day. Very well. Baffled by Alicent's behaviour, for her friend had been reduced to a sputtering and flushed mess, Rhaenyra shrugged one shoulder and let her hands fall. Stay here and hide if you wish. She dearly wished she wouldn't, but her mind seemed to be made up. That's all you seem to do nowadays. I cannot help you if you refuse to be helped. Her piece said. She turned and stalked away, leaving her friend to reach out after her with one hand. She had set the trap and baited it as best she could. The rest fell to Alicent now. What was the saying? You could lead someone to water, but you could not make them drink. Yes, that was the one. She could not drink for Alicent. Her old friend had to choose. A moment passed. Another now as she sauntered a ways down the hall. Rhaenyra kept walking, listening for any sign of noise. Any at all. Had she pushed too hard, she wondered? Too fast, perhaps. Soft footsteps followed after her. She preened a little. 'Twould seem Alicent had some spirit in her after all. Good. 0.00. They were leaving him here. Here in this nest of vultures and vipers. Here while his brother flew off on another adventure. Demon didn't much mind. He'd been missing Mysaria fiercely, and in truth he was glad for a chance to rest. For you see, he understood Viserys well, his reasoning at any rate. This was a test. It must be. For as they say, while the cat was away, the mice would play, and the dragon would watch them all. 0.0. He was getting used to this. The thought should have alarmed Naruto. The more comfortable he became with this world, the easier it was to leave his behind, to forget. But here and now he hid a smile behind Rhaenyra's back as the wind lashed at his face. Not only had she given him consent to ride with her, but he found he rather liked it. Very, very much. Syrax was easily large enough to seat 2 riders these days, and she didn't much mind his presence on her back. Emma and Alicent were safe and secure in the ship below them. After all, Rhaenyra's mother could hardly ride on dragonback, and hold little Visenya now, could she? As to Alicent, well, he hadn't expected her to sneak aboard at the last second, but Rhaenyra wouldn't budge. Viserys had only laughed when he saw her, while Aemma seemed positively delighted that she wouldn't have to suffer the voyage and seasickness alone. Misery loved company and all that. Naruto suspected that would soon change if Viserys had his way. If all went well here today, she'd never need a ship again. Good for him and good for her. If anyone deserved a little happiness, it was Viserys. This world had plenty of problems. Problems he couldn't always solve with a good hard punch or a Rasengan. Bloody blasted politics. Few nobles were willing to work with another, and those who were possessed precious little influence. The realm, as Alicent called it, was an ungainly beast. Always angry, always lashing out at someone or something. Still, he liked a challenge. Maybe it would take time to fix Westeros, but he would fix it. He'd decided that. He would see the realm brought to a better age. Even if he had to drag it there, kicking and screaming. He expected there would be a good deal of both before all was said and done. Things were improving with Alicent, but Otto and the rest of the council were intractable as ever. Bully on them, then. What did he care for the opinion of Ponces and parasites? Let them fidget and fuss when things didn't go their way, when he didn't do their bidding. What would they do? Kill him? Better men and women had tried. All had failed. And all would. It wasn't arrogance on his part, but simple truth. But for now, he tried not to focus on such things. Dragonstone was approaching, and there was much to do. As though summoned by that very thought, an isle rose out of the mists. The sight stole his breath away all at once. Is that? Rhaenyra grinned. Welcome to Dragonstone. Looking at it now, he could see how it lived up to its name. It was an absolute fortress. An army. Any army would be hard-pressed to take this place. The narrow path leading up to the castle could easily be strafed with impunity from Dragonback, and those heavy, wrought gates promised absolute murder to anyone foolish enough to try. Not that they would, of course. Who could be that stupid? Think of wars later. We've got work ahead of us. The sooner we get it done, the sooner I can stretch my legs. Karama's words soon proved prophetic, for a swarm of frenzied activity followed their arrival. Landing the dragons proved easy enough. Vermithor was eager to find his cave and return to his mate, while Syrax claimed a sandy shoal on the shore for herself. Emma's ship proved more problematic. Not only did it need to be tethered and moored far from the shallows, but from there, it was a delicate matter of moving her and the baby to shore via rowboat. Tricky bit of business, that. And then, of course, there was poor Alicent, who found herself saddled with little Visenya and her baby dragon, when it became increasingly clear that Viserys had no intention of waiting. He intended to take Emma down into the caves today. There would be no waiting. Naruto wasn't sure that was a good thing, because that left the three of them up here, waiting on the beach with an increasingly restless Syrax. A word of warning before we go. Viserys clasped his shoulder. There is a beast that lurks on the southern side of Dragonstone, one best left alone. I do not doubt your skill, but I would not see the three of you made a meal. Promise me you will be safe. We will. Rhaenyra sniffed. We're not fools, father. He fixed her with a steely look. Promise me, Rhaenyra. Promise me. I promise. It was not a promise they would be able to keep. 0.0. Down she went. Down into the depths, into the very heart of the Isle. Emma felt her heart pounding with every step. Torchlight guided the way this time, but even with the light she could scarcely see. The darkness swelled around her, thick and cloying, choking her hope. It felt like she was headed into the very bowels of the earth itself. As such, she was inordinately grateful for her husband's presence by her side. His hand in hers gave her the strength she needed to be brave, to move forward, even in the face of this overwhelming terror. Yet her Viserys showed no fear, even going so far as to hum a merry, dirty Valyrian ditty under his breath as he guided her through the caverns. He caught her staring his way and smiled softly. Not long now, my dear. He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it softly. We're nearly there. Had he gone mad? They could well be walking to their deaths. A dark shape reared out of the gloom. Emma jolted. Gods be good. But there were no gods here, only dragons. Careful now. Viserys took his hand from hers and touched a hand to the bronze dragon's snout. Don't make any sudden moves. Vermithor considered Emma for a long moment, sniffed once to taste her scent, then stepped aside. Something else moved in the dark behind him. It was her only warning. Then, quite suddenly, Emma found herself face to face with another dragon. Silverwing lived up to her namesake. While not so large as her mate, she was still quite impressive, and oh dear, here she came. Emma absolutely froze as the female dragon approached her. A low growl rumbled in the dark. It rattled her very bones. This close, she could smell the scent of fire and brimstone, but also another, fainter scent. What was that? She's protecting her eggs. Viserys warned her. Don't upset her. Emma would have guffawed if she weren't so terrified. Don't upset her, he said. It was a little late for that. Silverwing would gobble her up in a single bite, and there would be naught she could do. This time she did laugh, almost hysterically. Are you going to eat me then? Me? Silverwing didn't budge. To hell's with it. She only had her life to lose. Rhaenyra had that boy of hers. Even if she died here and now, she would have someone to support her. Plucking up the dying dregs of her courage, Aemma stepped forward, removed her gloves and pressed both hands to the dragon's snout, just below the beast's nostrils, as Viserys had taught her. She felt as much as heard Silverwing inhale deeply, saw the precise moment Vermithor's mate tested her scent. This was it, the moment of truth. Silverwing might accept her, which was all to the good, but if she didn't, well, it had been a good life. Abruptly, the dragon's growl died off. Was this it, then? The moment of her death? Would she die here, Ak? Without warning, Silverwing lurched, and quite suddenly, Aemma found herself pushed as that silvery snout pushed itself into her chest. The dragon, her dragon, trilled happily like a hatchling finding a long-lost friend. No fire came, no blood, only the faint, musty smell of the beast currently nuzzling her. A long tongue flitted out, and oh dear, Silverwing had just licked her head to toe. So much for her dress. Viserys rumbled a laugh. It seems she likes you. Congratulations. With those words, all the tension bled out of Aemma. Every bit. The Queen laughed again, softly now, despite herself. Was it truly that easy? What a lovely day. And then the earth shook. 0.00.0, a giant slitted eye opened in darkness. Now! The time had come. He would feed. 0.00.0. Rhaenyra sighed. You're restless, aren't you? I am. Naruto paused in his pacing, feet digging into the sands. Been thinking about things. Such as? Alicent dared to ask. He gave her a bemused look, shook his head, and kept pacing. Well, if we're being honest with each other, there's something I want to show you. He looked away, scratching his cheek. You? And only you. Now seems as good a time as any. I want someone to remember this, not just me, but what I can do, you know. He was rambling, not making any sense. And besides, he's been itching to get out for a while, so... He gave her hand a quick squeeze and walked backwards. Then there was light. A great, towering creature erupted into existence over his head. Massive! Impossibly large. A great golden beast with 9 tails. It thrust its head back and roared at the sky. Alicent squeaked beside her. Visenya cooed happily in her arms, even as her dragon raised its tiny wings and answered the cry. Rhaenyra hissed out a breath. Foxfire. Naruto turned to regard her within the great beast, banishing it now to drop down beside her. Pardon? Nothing. She fought down a flush. What is that? How are you able to... Something roared back. A massive shadow fell over them. Naruto looked up. Oh wow, you're a big one. Understatement of the century right there. Rhaenyra grabbed at his arm as winged death descended upon them. Alicent dove behind her. She couldn't even blame her friend for her fear. It was the largest dragon Rhaenyra had ever seen. She'd heard tell of such, of course. Every Targaryen worth their salt knew the legends. It had heard Kurama's call and answered with its own. A lone word tumbled from her lips. Cannibal. Huh. Naruto muttered under his breath. That's not a good name. Evidently the great black beast agreed, because it crashed down before them and lumbered forward with intent. Syrax keened shrilly and backed up, terrified out of her mind. Alicent cowered behind her, Visenya wailing in her arms, her little dragon making angry noises on her shoulders. And Naruto's? The madman walked toward Cannibal. Rhaenyra made a grab for him, only for him to eel out of her grasp. What are you doing? Get back here. Nice dragon. He ignored her and raised both hands, palms open, fingers splayed to make himself look harmless. Friendly dragon? We didn't mean to piss you off, so just calm down. Cannibal hissed at them and inhaled deeply. Rhaenyra saw fire flare in its throat. Not friendly. 0.0.0. Not friendly. The cannibal snarled and reared back, his throat glowing a eerie green. And then there was fire. Naruto flung up an arm to defend himself from the jade blaze as much as those behind him. There was no need. No pain came. Rather than roast them alive, the great dragon flung its head back and roared his challenge to the heavens, a wave of fury ripping the air apart to tear through a nearby cliff. The impact was such that the very island of Dragonstone shook, and still the pillar of eerie dragon flame shook the air as the beast roared at them. Hunger. No, he realized. At him. Hunger. He could sense it now, feel the dragon's emotions. It was starving, half crazed with hunger in desperate need of a proper meal. It wanted to consume him, devour him, his chakra, all of him. Hunger. Its roar was more of a challenge than any words could be. Are you the predator or the prey? The very second cannibal ceased breathing that terrifying emerald blaze, Naruto tackled it, driving the beast back into the cliffs. By now, all of Dragonstone had heard of the commotion. All could visibly see the toll of the battle taking its mark on the island. As the dragonfire ripped the ground apart, a roar of defiant fury, remarkably human at that, filled the air before a powerful concussion of air filled the air. A clap of thunder followed seconds later, and the flames immediately died. Those who saw it would speak well of this day. The remaining portion of the cliff nearby collapsed to the ground, revealing the horrifying visage of a dragon nearly as large as the Black Dread itself. Looming before a young blonde man engulfed in golden energy, a snarl right upon his face. What happened next would be carved into legend. The young man snarled as he leapt at the equally enraged dragon and slammed a fist into the beast's lower jaw, staggering the animal. Another kick to its face sent it reeling. The next hit buried its head into the ground with enough force to rattle the very foundations of the isle, sending massive chunks of stone falling from the roof around them. Rhaenyra and Alicent skittered back, and as they did, he spared a glance for the caves. Hopefully Viserys and Aemma were deep enough to be left unharmed. Naturally, the tailed beast chakra rapidly coursing through his veins allowed him to match the beast blow for blow, but sadly all his immense strength was allotting him at the moment was anger. Every punch angered the cannibal more than ever before, and it decided to show him why it wasn't one to trifle with. With a roar of anger and rage, the beast howled at the sky. However, and this was putting it lightly, Naruto merely snarled as he straight up thrust a fist into the air, shattering the falling stones from the collapsing cliff into small pebbles with the sheer force of his punch. Then he leapt at the beast. He drew on more of Kurama's chakra and dropped the full might of his heel into the beast's skull, burying its head into the stones. The beast was shoved back and out the back wall of the cliffside and onto the beachhead nearby for all to see. Naruto didn't care. Yet again he leapt up and smashed a fist encased in golden chakra into the beast's jaw. This time, he was rewarded with an awful crunch and flying teeth. Errors were made. With a roar, the cannibal slammed its tail down on his head. The blow nearly flattered him. Would have, if he weren't encased in chakra. That brief moment of shock on the Wormsea's part gave him all the time he needed. He seized its tail in a powerful grip and pulled as hard as he could. Gravity yielded to him and he threw the immense dragon over his shoulder. It crashed down with enough force to rock all of Dragonstone to the core, sending stones falling like leaves in the wind. Naruto, however, wasn't even close to being done. With a cry of war, the young teen leapt up and smashed his fist into the beast's face. Once, twice, thrice. He continued to lay into it until a blast of fire finally found him and hurled him away. The cannibal rolled over to his feet in defiance, roaring a massive pillar of black and green flame. Heat washing over the cliffs of Dragonstone in a fashion only remembered by those who had seen and interacted with the dread itself. Stone melted away and sand was turned to glass and the world was bathed in green fire, only for this pillar of fire to cease as a powerful left hook slammed home into its mouth. Aghast, the beast stumbled back on its hind legs, and once again another strike found the dragon, causing it to step back. Outraged, the dragon leapt up with a clap of thunder from its wings, drew back and roared with everything it had. The massive pillar of green fire that followed was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Moreover, it was fast, so much so that he barely had time to raise a golden arm before it rained down upon him. A gasp tore past his lips. It hurt. It actually hurt. He'd almost forgotten what pain felt like. "Kurama!" Golden light burst through the flames as he gave his old friend sway. Together they burst through the flames, barreling out of the inferno. A single leap closed the distance. They crashed down on its back, sending the great black beast sprawling into the shallows. A giant clawed paw caught it by one of the horns even as the other reared back. "Go! Away! Damn you!" The golden teen roared in fury as he rained down blow after blow, hammering each word home. Eventually, the hits to its skull were more than enough to send the message. The cannibal snarled and bucked them off its back, sending both boy and beast slamming into the cliffside once more. Stones tumbled down past him, forcing him to shield Rhaenyra and Alicent lest they be crushed. It was the work of an instant, little more than a second, really. That brief moment of inattention was all it took for the cannibal to take flight. Denied its meal, the beast burst into the skies and hurtled away into the mists, roaring as it went. However, it would return, but not for prey, for this human had garnered its attention. This would not be the last time they'd meet. Far from it. Chapter 8, High in the halls of the kings who have gone, a young dragon danced with a ghost, the one she had lost, the one she had found, and the one she loved the most. The one she'd known for so very long she couldn't forget his name. Dot he spun her around on damp old Dragonstone, spun away all her sorrow and pain. And she never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave, never wanted to leave. Tilda, dancing with ghosts, everyone had dragons. Alicent could scarcely wrap her head around it all. In truth, she wasn't sure she wanted to. The entire royal family had made a resurgence, not just the king now, but the queen as well. Then there was baby Visenya, and of course Rhaenyra. One mustn't forget Demon either. Now it seemed Naruto would have a worm of his own, soon, if he had anything to say about it. By his own admission, he'd held back against the cannibal only yesterday, but now he seemed curious, eager even, to seek out the beast of his own accord. Downright determined to track it down, no matter where it lay here on Dragonstone. Rhaenyra seemed all too happy to aid him in such. And where was she in all this? Stuck here in this infernal sitting room, rocking little Visenya to sleep as dragons wheeled overhead, the girl's own dragon hatchling, looking on with wary eyes. This was what she'd been reduced to, relegated to this base babysitting duty, while her dear friend prepared herself for possibly her greatest adventure yet. It made her feel small, wretched, useless. How could she possibly hope to compare to these legends? Rhaenyra had encouraged her to be free, but again, how could she? 7 hells, it was all so wickedly complicated. She longed for simpler days. It was made all the worse by the sight unfolding before her. Well, below her, really. She was rather high up. She could see Rhaenyra and Naruto here from the thin slit of her window, seeing the two of them together like this, walking on the shore. It hurt. She wasn't quite sure why, but it made her want to cry. They were comfortable with one another, relaxed in a way that implied implicit trust in each other. Yet they weren't truly a couple yet. Something would change soon, and she wasn't sure if she was ready for it. How then? Could she break her chains and be free? Did she even want to be without Rhaenyra? Time would tell, she supposed. Wait. What in the 7 hells were they doing down there? 0.0. Dragonstone was not the capital. Rhaenyra rejoiced in that every day, revelled in it for every minute, every second they spent here. Here where there was no one to spy on them. Here where she did not feel the burdens of the crown. Here where she could be herself and walk on the beach in peace without an escort, his hand in hers, surf lapping at their boots. Naruto didn't seem opposed to it, which was all to the good, because she had no bloody idea what she was doing. If you want to start courting the boy, then court him. Mother had said that to her suddenly, out of the blue, just this morning. Best do it soon before someone else snaps him up. You've your work cut out for you there, I'm afraid. All well and good, really. There was just one problem. Rhaenyra didn't know how. Not a bit. Not a jot. She'd never courted anyone before. Why would she? There had never been any need prior to this moment. She hadn't really felt much of anything toward anyone before Naruto had washed ashore into her life. The friendship between them had taken some time to bloom, but bloom it had, and she found herself undone in his presence. This was fresh, this was new, this was so very confusing. She felt, gods be good. She wasn't sure what she felt for him sometimes. She enjoyed his presence, certainly, and enjoyed training with him. She took great pride in his strength and skills, and wouldn't let anyone speak ill of him. No one. Not Otto Hightower, not Corlys Velaryon, not even her own kin. Holding his hand had seemed like a natural step, but she didn't know what to do next. His fingers were warm against hers, his hand easily dwarfing her own. She could feel the calluses of his palm pressing against hers as they walked, his hip occasionally jostling hers. Each bit of contact sent a frisson of warmth blazing through her chest, causing her heart to pound in her ears like never before. She was at her wit's end. It certainly didn't help that both her parents had essentially left them to their own devices while they worked to bond with their dragons in the sky. Thus, here she was without a chaperone, utterly at a loss. Dragon is. Naruto finished speaking suddenly. What do you think? Rhaenyra blinked quickly, baffled. Blast it, she'd missed what he said. Come again? She coughed into a fist. I didn't quite catch what you said. I said I think I know where that dragon is, he finished, looking her way with a rueful smile. He's good at hiding, but I'm better at seeking. Rhaenria latching onto the conversation like a drowning girl. And what do you intend to do once you find him? One shoulder rolled in a half-hearted shrug. I'll have a few words with him. Do you mean to ride him? Maybe. He shrugged again. Haven't given much thought to it. You? Ride a dragon. She granted him a sidelong look. Do you have a death wish? It's never been done before, not by anyone who wasn't a Targaryen. Really? Her warning only emboldened him. Now I definitely want to try it. He could be such a boy sometimes. Still, she liked that about him. She huffed a little. He'll try to eat you again. He can try. His smile spoke of boundless determination. He won't succeed. That was something to think about now, wasn't it? If he actually managed to master that beast, well, the world might well think him a Targaryen, regardless of his protests. She rather liked that idea. Indeed, the longer she thought of it, the more it appealed to her and the more her hand tightened in his. And if the realm thought him a Targaryen, well, then there would be no protests at all if they were to be fire and blood. She couldn't even think the word. Her brain fizzled around it. She found herself longing to move closer, and so she did, their arms brushing against one another with every other step. Abruptly, he grinned. I've got an idea. She quirked a pale brow. Am I going to like this idea? Depends. His grin grew another inch. Do you trust me? Did she? She supposed so. He'd proven himself worthy of it, if nothing else. Yes? Great. He stopped walking completely and pivoted on one heel. Then don't let go. No matter what, Rhaenyra had half an instant to realize what he intended. Wait just a moment. Too little, too late. Naruto was already moving like his namesake, sweeping her up off her feet and into his arms. Her face went red. Why was he carrying her like this? Startled by such impropriety, she flung both arms round her neck with a yelp and clung onto him for dear life. Well, that she did too, because he darted away from land entirely and shot across the water. Cold, salty sea spray lashed at her face to sting her eyes, and she buried her head against his chest to ward off the worst. Just as suddenly, he stopped. All right, this'll do. You can open your eyes now. Rhaenyra did, fearful of what she might find there. There was no need. Her reflection stared back at her from the water's surface in silent serenity. It looked as frazzled as she felt, because you see, Naruto was standing on the water, just standing here, as though it were a solid surface and not a perilous plunge into the abyss. She cast a desperate glance about herself. Sure enough, she found the Isle of Dragonstone not far from them. He had not taken her out of sight of land, but it was a discomforting sight all the same. And she couldn't swim. How are you doing this? Easily, he squinted at her. You mean you people can't walk on water? No. She smacked his chest, quite cross with him. Of course we can't. Why would you think we could? Huh. He blinked once. Well, you learn something new every day. Well, in that case, definitely don't let go of my hands, all right? He guided her down, held her hands, and bid her to stand atop his feet. So close. Too close. A curious tingle surged through his hands, flowing through their interlocked fingers. At first she didn't see what the point of it all was, but then he began to move. No, don't move. He stepped back and heat speared through her face, first from fear, then anger, then embarrassment as she realized she was standing on the water herself. She flailed in a blind panic, but incredibly didn't find herself sucked under. How are you? I'm channeling my chakra around you. Naruto hummed, his expression only slightly strained. How's it feel, walking on water? I wanted this to be special. He didn't give her time to answer and tugged her back to him with a familiar gait. Rhaenyra recognized the steps, the twirl that followed them. Her eyes widened. Dance! She sputtered the word out, then swore for the slip. I mean, you can dance? Not very well. He adopted a rueful little smile as they performed a pirouette and drew her close. Your old man taught me a little. Thought I'd surprise you. He certainly had. If this wasn't very well, then she shuddered to think what was. Her heart quickened a little as he led her through a slow waltz. He wasn't the best at it, but he was far from the worst. She wasn't sure how much time passed nor how far they moved, only that they did. You've marvellous. A laugh tumbled out of her as she looked back to Dragonstone, drawing steadily closer as they danced their way back to it. We could stay out here 1,000 years. No one would find us. Naruto laughed. An awful pang seized at her then. She wasn't sure why, only that it did. Let's not go back. She stepped into him quickly, letting him lead her through the steps to the shallows. Let's stay here. I don't ever want to leave this island. That drew a rather bemused blink from her beloved baffling blonde. We're not leaving anytime soon, no. Her forehead touched his chest, silently pleading him to understand. Not ever. Don't leave me. Not ever. You can't, because if he ever did, she would shatter.